All right, so let's start it off and just have a general conversation. Like I said, you and I were on the phone earlier, and you were telling me about a scenario where you mentor young men, right? Either associated with the school, or I don't know, is it only associated with school, or is it associated with just random individuals, guys from church?
Uh, Primarily, it's school stuff related. So I have, so the program I curated is called Standing as Gentlemen, where we teach them skills to be set them up to be successful young men, right? So we go through, for example, talk about good posture, good eye contact, how to dress, good speech, good language, gestures, total presentation. So we talk about the physical, and then we go into the mental, where we start talking about attitude, respect, and influence and conflict resolution because we struggle with that,
Right.
right? And so we talk about all these types of things, and we spend time together. And so some of those are in the schools, and then some of them, like there's an after school program where it's not school related, but they come straight from school to the after school program to get some guidance and some food and some recreation. But they brought me in and was like, hey, can you give them a little more age because they're a little younger, a little more age appropriate version of this program, right? And
Right,
we just
right, right.
finished up with them. So yeah,
So, is it specific to African American men of color, or just young men in general?
I don't know, young men.
So, what led to the creation? And forgive me, I didn't catch the name of that program, but what led to the creation of this program? Were you involved from the start, or you got somebody else created and you got brought in?
No, so Standing as Gentlemen was the name. We call it
Okay.
SAG for short. So
Okay.
SAG, the tagline,
I like
the
that. I
tag,
like that. Okay.
tagline is um, redefining what it means to SAG, right? And so basically, what it came about is I curated the whole thing from the ground up,
Okay.
and I took the characteristics that I learned along the way. I was like, man, what as a now man in my 40s, what what was my ingredients of success along the way, right? I'm not on top of the food chain by any stretch of imagination,
Nobody
but
is.
I have an amazing life that I absolutely love, and most, if not all, of my successes are due in part to somebody else, some lessons that I learned. And so I sat down and said, man, what if I had to pass along something to, for my son, for example? He's 10, so he soon, probably this summer, will be getting put through the same program. I want him to understand, what it takes to be successful, and then practice it and live that out. Ask myself, what characteristics did I learn or did I receive to help me be successful? What gave me an advantage? And so I started down and started jotting things down, and I came up with a list. And it's not all inclusive because I'm still adding things. I added influence this year. I might add grooming next year, right? And so I wanted to be able to find a way to give young men an advantage of some sort, right?
All right. I got to interrupt because I got to. You said the word grooming, and I know somebody's gonna take that the wrong way. So please explain what you mean. I know what you mean,
Right,
right?
right,
But for those that don't,
right. And so we have this opinion, or we've been told that uh, you can look and dress and be any way you want, and to a certain extent, that's true. But
you have the freedom,
you're
but there's consequences.
you're a business owner. I'm a business owner, and I get to decide who I want to represent the front end of my company. If you
Right.
are the face of my company, I don't have an issue with tattoos. I don't have any. They're not for me, but
Same.
they're for a lot of other people, and I don't have a single issue with it. However, if you've got tattoos on the neck and the hands and things like that, face, I'm not going to have you on the front end of my company, right? Because
Right.
my companies have clean image,
So you're talking the appearance when you say
right?
grooming, physical appearance.
Right.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't want SAG was never created with the intention to take over someone's home life or replace
Right.
their dad or
It's
anything
just
like that. I
adding
am not.
features
Right.
or characteristics of decent men.
Right. And so I'm talking about grooming, like who teaches who how to shave, right? So we take some disposable razors, some shaving cream. Like, yeah, hey, when you get to that point, or if you are there now, let me help show you how to shave, right? You
Right.
don't have to sit down looking all crazy with stubble all on your face.
Yep.
Let's clean you up because if you do an interview or
It makes a
a
difference.
presentation, right? You come and you look clean. You look the part that you look
Absolutely.
the part that you're applying for.
I didn't want to steer too far, but I know,
Right.
I'm listening. I heard a key word. I'm
Right.
like, somebody's going to hear that and think the total wrong thing. So I wanted to touch on that. So continue down the path. So this is, again, about helping young men learn the skills that maybe they aren't being taught at home. Either father's not present, maybe not a good role model,
Sure.
down those lines. So let's take a step back for just a second. Let's talk about your upbringing. right? Because you mentioned, you started thinking about things you wanted to say and how you got here, and things are, different. Um, Responsive, or I won't say responsive. That's the wrong choice of word. Excuse me, that's the wrong word. You said there are people that you owe, or experiences you owe that you've learned from, and people have helped you along the way. So let's kind of talk a little bit about kind of where you were, where you started from, because I remember during that conversation earlier, one of the young men said something along the lines of, "You don't know what it's like where I'm from," or something to that nature, which they I know they don't know what you know, right? So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your upbringing. I'll speak a little bit about mine, and we kind of talk about how we got where we're at.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm from the Bend, born and raised. Right, spent the first 25 years of my life here. I've since moved away, but this is home. So I grew up in Beacon Heights and LaSalle Park Homes. Like that was home, right? And so, product of a single parent home. Dad lived in town, but it was might as well live stayed away because it was just didn't have that a relationship. And so, mom did the best she could with what she had available. And in the '80s, '90s, growing up, on
It's
the
a lot
north
of
side
influence.
and in the lake, you know, dope boys out on the corner, people slinging dope, jump out boys for South MPD or Vice or whatever it
Nest,
was
I
at the time.
think.
Nest, right
Yeah,
there you go.
Nest.
And then you know by witnessing folks get ripped for their chain at gunpoint, it was a different time back then.
Right.
Um, and then so about 12 or 13, mom's got her LPN. Right, we moved out of the Heights. She bought a house for the first time. We moved to the North Side. Still not the best of areas, but it's an upgrade.
Better than Heights.
Right, it's an upgrade
Right,
from the Heights.
right.
In fact, I think the week we left, there was like 2 or 3 stabbings in the Heights, and so it was a good time.
Good old days, right? When there
Right.
was stabbings in the Heights.
Now it's pop how.
Right, right.
Getting
Continue, my
blasted.
bad.
Yeah. So, uh, you know, we were living a better life, and I was grateful for it. But I didn't. Again, I don't have my dad in my life. Not fatherly influence, and so I got to a point where I started seeking out model roles for men who weren't my father. And there's 2 men I can think of, Franco Lawrence and Mr. Willie Keys, and they didn't. Well, Mr. Keys was a legit mentor. That was the title we had, and he lived. So I lived on the north side on the north side of Lincoln Way, and he lived just across Olive to the west on the south side. Not very far. In hindsight, now it's maybe a mile.
Right.
Right.
Back then it was long. It was a long
Right.
distance.
Exactly. So, but it seemed like it was so far away. But when I would go to his house, I was like, man, this is how the other half lives. I mean, he didn't have a mansion or anything like that, but he was not in the hood.
Right, right.
Now, I know now it was close, but it opened my eyes. Right. I was so used to seeing, you know, the life in LaSalle Park Homes, the life in Beacon Heights, and even the life on Brookfield Street where I was living. And I finally was able to look past my own nose and realize that, man, there's life out here that's way beyond this.
And a lot of kids don't have that, man.
Man. And so now, at my home, we have a globe in our house. And the kids are like, why do we have a globe? Because we want you to see that the world is much bigger than where we live. Right? It's an entire world out here that you're essentially missing if you just have your eyes down, your nose down, and you think that this is as good as it gets. You're wrong. Like there's
Right.
an entire globe of opportunity out here. So going in, grew up, left here at 25, got a job, and they called me and offered me more money than I'd ever made, and they said the condition is you got to move. All right, well, where we
Pack up
going?
and go.
Right. I'm single. Well, I had a girlfriend,
Right.
but no kids, no house, no real ties. My family. I still have family
You
here,
can love people
but
from anywhere.
right. All my attachments were portable, and so I moved 2 hours away, and my wife, not now wife, moved, and we converged on the area together. She got an apartment, I got an apartment, and we
So
started to build a
y'all
life
moved to the
together.
same city, but y'all didn't live together.
Right.
Okay, that's cool because a lot of people don't.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, her father's a pastor, and so that was a
It was his deal.
well. I mean, she wanted to because she wanted to honor that
Right,
relationship.
right.
Right. Her father is one of her biggest male influences. Right. I think I'm vying for number one. We competing neck and neck, but you know, she don't want to upset him. Don't want to upset that boat, and so it was cool. And so she got a job, and she's from Wisconsin. At the time, she was living and working just outside of Chicago, And so we both converged on a city that I'd only visited one time before. So basically, it was new to both of us.
Right,
And so
right.
we both got apartments, and we would spend a lot of time at each other's apartments, but both had our own thing going on. It wasn't even really. I mean, if you people hear that, they might think that he was afraid it wouldn't work out. No, it really was never that. Right, just me trying to honor.
Right, respect her
Exactly.
dad's wishes.
Right,
Right.
exactly. And so we converged there, and so we've been building our life there now for 17 years, right? And so, um,
That's a long time. No, I mean that's a long. It's a long time. But
right, yeah. I mean, and as far as relationships go,
right,
I haven't had eyes for another woman since 2005, right? And so, and I'm okay with that.
nothing wrong with
I,
it.
I love my lady. I do anything for her, right? And so, we're in a really good spot. And I just finally, two daughters, a son. And, when a man has a boy, he starts thinking differently. Right?
Absolutely.
How do we get here, and how do I protect him? Right? I've had conversations with my wife. I know you say it almost every episode. I'm married to a white woman, right? And so there are cultural differences that we have to work through. I remember one time, I specifically, he acted out and I was disciplining, and she didn't necessarily agree with the discipline or how I was disciplining. And I told her, I said, and this was shortly after Michael Brown, Ferguson. I said, I don't want my son being the next Michael Brown. Like, my son needs to understand order and discipline and know when he can and can't, when he should and shouldn't, because I don't want this to happen to him. Right.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. Because of that conversation, I remember a very long time ago. I'm the youngest of four boys. My oldest brother is 10 years older than me. I remember Big John, police officer Big John. I know what that was now. I remember Big John bringing my brother home, and saying to my mom, "Hey, you need to whoop his ass, or we have to whoop his ass later."
Right.
Right. And that hit home because, and I'm not saying you have to spank your kids, right? But I think young black men have to be disciplined in a way that guides them through life, because we don't necessarily have the same we have the same opportunities, but the reactions to our behavior is not the same.
Right.
Right. So forgive me for interrupting. I wanted to put that out there because I seen a young lady post something on Facebook the other day. She's like, if you got to spank your kids, that's abuse, blah blah blah. I'm like, you don't have black kids, and it's not a problem that you don't, but we we have to realize our kids don't have necessarily the same luxuries in reactions to their behavior. So I'll let you continue, but I wanted to just jump
Yeah.
in and throw
No,
that in.
you're right. I mean, we free flowing, but I mean, you're right, because I got three kids and I can't and couldn't discipline any of my three kids the same way. And so I had to be able to recognize that, okay, this one needs this. My middle one, I can just look at her cross and tears, waterworks, boom. All right, job done. I
Right,
didn't do
right.
anything. I told my wife early on, I was like, hey, if we'd have had a boy first, one and done. Right? Boys and girls are completely different. And my son put me through it. I was like, yo, I wouldn't, I told myself I wouldn't do this twice. And so he ended up being the last one. And I love him to death, right? But I was tough, as in stern and disciplined with him early on. So I didn't have to work so hard at it later, trying to carve out the bad habits and say, okay, now that you're old enough to understand, here's who I want you to be, or here's who I'm guiding you and steering you to be. I was determined to set that tone early.
You have to.
And we had our little rough patch because, 3 and 4 years old, trying to get them on board, not really cognitively understanding what we're asking them to do. But now it was a rock star, right? Everyone's like, dude, your son is amazing. I don't have a single problem out of him. I chaperoned one of his field trips last month, and two of his little buddies were in class and they were just acting a fool. And I know their names and I know their faces. And so like the teacher said, uh, are they always like this? I said, yes. Like, she was worn out when she said it. And I said, how does my son respond when they start getting, because I know they're buddies. How does my son respond when they get like this? Said he removes himself from the situation. So he's smart enough at 10 years old to know,
Does he know
not feeling that, right?
it's fun right now?
Walked away because he knows proximity is real.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Dad don't care if you say it wasn't me. And in fact, today I got home, well, he got home and he was like, uh, Dad, we were at recess and this happened, and then we were in the classroom and my two buddies were playing, and then took the ball and they knocked the plant off the shelf and it broke. And he I think he said, I'm pretty sure he said we were playing, right? And then I was like, so who all was playing? And he was like, they were. I was like, ain't what you said. He said, no, I said they. I said, okay. I said, so what'd you do? He said, no, he said, I was sitting down doing my work. And I believe him, right? My son, um, he'll he'll tell on himself because he understands. I don't make my mind up for me.
Right. Give
Tell
me the
me
information.
tell me the truth.
Let
Let
me
me
decide.
decide what to do with it,
Yep.
and then we'll go from there. If you lie to me though, you've already made my decision. You made it really easy
Right.
for both of
Right.
us.
I don't get to be nice guy right now.
Right. So and that's what I get from his teachers, right? They're like a gift to have in class. He does his work. He doesn't bother anybody else. He's completely helpful, asking what else he can do, and that's the kind of young man I want to raise. I want to raise kids, children who have servants' hearts. I mean, my wife and I foster right now, right? So right now we got 6 kids in our house.
I love you for that because I can't do it. I'm not gonna lie.
It's not for everybody, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you it's easy. But as a servant, someone who has a servant's heart, trying to give these children an opportunity that they otherwise would not
And
have
that's
is worth it for us, right?
Gary and I talked about it, but my wife is super emotional. I'm like, it's going to destroy you as an individual. I know you want to help, but you're not going to handle the backstory very well,
Sure.
right? If you got a brand new baby from, the mom just had the baby and she doesn't want to take care of the baby or can't deal with it, whatever the case may be, great. But if you get kids who've been through something, it's going to tear you up. So my wife wanted to do it, but I was like, it's probably not good for us as a family, um, because I know what it's going to do to you as an individual, right? And I'm probably gonna get in trouble for that. I'm overly protective. My goal is to provide and protect for my family, emotionally, physically, financially, in every aspect. So when I look at that and when we talked about it, I'm like, yes, you're just gonna put you in a bad way. And then there's nothing I can do to protect you from that.
Right.
So I think, and again, as a family, we make decisions, right? It's 100% or it's 0%, right? We don't, if it's 50-50, we don't do it, which is the same as 100 and 0, right? So we either all in or we all out. So, but no, that's pretty awesome. And you touched on a couple things, right? And I catch a lot of flack. I've been married to a white woman for 25 plus years, and I'm financially okay. And a lot of people look at that as, oh man, you married a white girl because you got some money, and that wasn't either one of either
Right.
case. But as a father to black children who have a white mother, things are different, right? We don't have. I'm gonna use the word luxury. We don't have the luxury of having both sides of the family understand what it's like to be black. You know, my son, I had to talk to him a lot growing up. Hey, listen, you have a lot of white friends, Mexican friends, whatever, but when you're riding in the car with them, you're still a black dude, right? And not that he forgot, but I need to remind you because again, if something goes down, people. I don't know how people are going to respond. My son's kind of big now. They're grown. He's grown. He got in an accident. A deer hit the car. A deer ran out in front of him, hit the car, whatever. He said, "Dad, I'm calling police." Wait, I'm on my way because you don't have the experiences that I've had with police. Not saying police are bad. I want to clearly say that, right? 'Cause I got an officer sitting with me. I want to make sure I say that. But I don't. I'm just saying, as a black man, I don't want you. He's big, he's large, and I'm not like fat. He's muscular, which unfortunately is intimidating to a lot of people. So I'm like, listen, chill till I get there. Let's call the police because there's a certain way you want to appear when they show up, right? To reduce the we don't know who we're getting. We got 2 amazing officers popped up. Hey man, you guys okay? But boss, yeah, my son got action. I'm just here to make sure he was okay. Deer ran out. No big deal, right? But my son is he grew up. We started off in Beacon Heights, right? When he was born, my wife got pregnant when I was in math class, right? Not technically a math class, but right. I was still in high school, right? Which I didn't finish. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend, I did this great thing, but I didn't. She got pregnant when I was 17. So we didn't have any money, right? So, and I'm gonna come back to that, but I'm gonna speed along. We grew up poor, so my son when he was younger saw all the projects, but as he got older, he got into private school, right? So when he entered, I think by the time he got to kindergarten, we were at a good enough point where I could put him in private school. I think it was kindergarten or first grade, one of the two. So he grew up around some different kids. He had friends that were super well off, and some that weren't. But he he didn't catch a lot of the same things I caught growing up. As far as we see different interactions between people and police. Sometimes it's actions of the person, its reaction to police, whatever the case may be. But I didn't want my son to jump out like, hey, by the way, and all they see is a big dude jump out in the middle of the night, right? Because it was late at night. So I wanted to make sure that, I reiterated to him, just chill. Let me get there, right? And I'll help you, you know what I'm saying, kind of navigate through that. So, but again, back to what I'm saying, there's some differences, right? Just family differences. I was blessed. My mom and dad got divorced when I was younger, but I was blessed to still have my dad in my life until he passed away. My dad passed away when I was 21. My mom passed away when I was 23. So my daughter didn't. She met my mom. I actually never met my mom because my mom passed in '99. So my son met my dad and my mom, but my daughter never did. I don't know, I'm venturing off. So, but anyway, just kind of going back to that, right? So as a black man, you and I have some similarities. We're black men. We're husbands. We're fathers, and we have our children by our wives, right? Which is crazy today, right? And I try to talk to people and try to put the value in that, right? Because I hear a lot of men say today, especially as I'm podcasting and doing other things, oh, marriage is not worth it. But if you have a child, it's worth it, right? Because you don't want to raise your child to think, I don't want to be committed to this individual, right? Because to me, being a husband has a lot less responsibility than being a father, right? A father, I'm a father for my entire life,
Right.
no matter whether my kids want me to be their father or not, right? I'm a husband until I'm not, right? And I plan on being a husband my entire life. Let me clarify that, right? But, me personally, marriage is, in my opinion, a heck of a lot easier than parenthood. And if a woman to me isn't worth being my wife, she's not worth being a mother,
Man,
right? That's where I'm at.
right. There's no way in the world. Like, I literally creating life. One of the most sanctified things that we can do as people. But to be able to look at her and go, well, she good enough to lay down with, but I don't want to be with her. What? Then why would you do that to either one of y'all? Right? It's just crazy to me. And I mean, what are we teaching our kids? Right? Is she
Right,
an asset or is she a liability? Right?
right.
Are relationships worth it or they're not? Because everything is relational. Everything.
Everything.
And the difference maker in successful people is the value that they place on relationships, business relationships, romantic relationships, friendships. Like, I mean, we can be a product of our environment. It's how we manage it, right?
Right.
You and I are from the heights. We didn't allow the heights to be our ceiling, right? But there are some people. I still have family who live on the lake and have never left. Like,
I mean, it is crazy.
what's here that's keeping you here? Now, if you love living here, that's fine. No shade
Right,
whatsoever.
right.
But I just wasn't when I was 20, 21. Well, 23, 24. I realized I came to a point. I was like, man, I hit my ceiling in South Bend. Like, dude, I'm not gonna go any higher than where I am right now. Right, not without some serious digging in and work to do.
Right.
And so I went somewhere else where there were different ceilings, and it worked out in my favor that I went somewhere that nobody knew who I was, and so I got a clean slate.
Right. Fresh
And
start.
I get to, my last name isn't a negative mark.
Right. Nobody, it
Nobody
doesn't
knows.
carry any weight.
Right,
It does carry a little weight around here.
right. So you can, so I can go there, and I'm essentially anonymous for the first few years until I establish my
Right.
reputation, and that is on my shoulders.
100% on you.
It'll live or die with me.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, I took it serious enough where it now lives. And I tell my kids, I tell them, I said, because my kids play sports and my daughter plays basketball, and I hadn't made it to the game yet, and apparently she got into it with one of the other players and uh, had basically cussed her out loud enough that the whole gym could hear it. We don't do that.
Your daughter did that?
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. So she's 15, so she's trying to find herself.
Yep.
But I told her, and she knew once because I could tell there was something going on between her and this player. So after the game, I said, "What's going on with you?" And number whatever it was. And she's like, "Oh, we got into it earlier." Okay, tell me about it. Like, you're not
That's
gonna
not the whole
wage me
story.
over, right? So she's like, "Ah, she did something," and I said something to her. What'd you say? I said something I shouldn't have. Keep going, right? And so she eventually told me, and I was like, I looked at her and like, and I just turned, right? Because we in the middle of a gym, like I'm in public,
Right. Home gonna be different. But
I'm sitting here, and my wife already knew. I bet steam was coming out
Right.
my hoodie.
right, you boiling.
And so, my wife was sitting behind me, and she's like rubbing the back of my head because she's the only person who could touch my head. But she knew, like, he's in a bad way right now. Let me me try to get him.
Calm him down.
Right.
Got right home.
So I watched the varsity game, the whole game and everything. And then my daughter thought she was slick. She, hey, can we give such and such a ride home? She trying to have witnesses.
Right. Like, he ain't gonna do that. If you ride with me, old school. If you ask your mom, can I spend the night? She'll say, yeah. If I,
Yeah, I think her and my son were in the car with me, and then we dropped a friend off, and then we need to make it around the corner. And so I was like, hey, that name on the back of y'all jersey means something. You do not get to come in here and tear down 17 years worth of work because you have an emotional moment. That's not who we are, and that's not who I'm raising you to be. And I didn't scream. I was clearly not happy. They need to see that. Dad is upset. I messed up. Let me commit to not doing that again. I didn't scream. Nobody got hit. You know what I mean? Nothing like that. But they need to see our disappointment, right? And I've said it before, and people look at me like a crazy when I say it. I said, but we all need somebody to disappoint.
Absolutely.
And people look at me like, what? Like, you can't just go through life and not being held accountable to somebody, whether it be a wife, a kid, a boss, coworker,
whatever,
neighbor, right? Somebody who looks to you
parent
as a role model, or somebody who's doing well needs to be able to look at you, and so that when you see their face, you think of them, you go, man, I can't let them down.
Yeah, I messed up. I ain't doing that again. And
that keeps us honest. That allows us to check ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so, as a father, that's who I am in that house. And I told them flat out, I said, man, our last name means something. You may not believe that, and maybe you don't even understand at this point right now. I said, but that last name means something. You don't get to come in here and tear it down. I tell them, you mentioned already, I'm a police officer. Been a police officer for 17 years. That's what had me leave the area. I love what I do. I love what I get to do. I'm in a position to help people. Every day is different, and I get to make real impact, which is why I started mentoring. Right, I created a program that is designed to help young men be successful. And you talked about just a little bit ago about not know what kind of officer you get. Man, as an officer, I can tell you there are all kinds. I know that. I'm not going to sit here. You'll never, and you know me well enough to know, but I'm never going to talk through rose-colored lenses and say, "Oh, everyone is all good." I've worked with some shady dudes, and have distanced myself from them, or make sure that upper management knew that something went right over here. But I got pulled over on the way up here to see you right now.
I was gonna bring it up. I was gonna let you bring that one up.
I got pulled over tonight coming up here, right? And so lights come on behind me. So what I do, turn on all the interior lights. I roll down the windows, and then I put my hands on the steering wheel, palm up. I need you to see that we ain't got no problem.
Right.
So he goes through his whole spiel, and I say, hey, just so you know, man, I'm off duty police officer, and there's at least one gun in the car.
At least on a good day.
Right. Do with that what you want. I'm telling you that. One, I'm showing you all this, so there's nothing to hide. It's time I get here 11, so it's 10, 15, 10 at night. Right. Pitch black. On 31
road.
Right, on 31. So ain't no street lights. So it's just us. And I want you to see that I intend no threat, no harm to you. And so eventually he's like, man, you can relax. I'm just waiting for you to say it, right?
Right.
And by relax, I'm going to put my hands on the steering
wheel. I'm not reaching for anything.
Right. And so so everyone, and everyone has their opinion about police officers. But I've been one for a while, right? And so we are grossly, as in we, Black people, are grossly misrepresented in this field. And that honestly, that needs to change. And
Absolutely.
so we can't, it's hard to sit here and gripe about everything that's wrong and that's broken, but we're not lending any real opportunity to try to be part of the solution. I just had a conversation with a young man out in Indianapolis. He came and applied with us. He got passed over. So I called him, hey, what's going on? I just want to chat with you. And we were talking, and I was like, man, how are you feeling? He's like, man, it rubbed me the wrong way. No one likes to be turned down for something.
Right.
So, but one of the big issues there was that he didn't have family support. So he said he doesn't have a relationship. I think he said his mom has passed away, and he doesn't have a relationship with that. And so I said, well, who's your number one? Who do you go to? He's like, my aunt. Okay, cool. What'd she feel about it? Oh, she was mad. She was mad I even applied. And I was like, okay. So we talked through that. And like for that to be your number one, it's not. I'm not saying. I'm not asking you to co-sign for me. I'm asking you to support me.
Right. Support my decision.
Right.
Right.
And then so this type of job it can be hard enough as it is. You need someone that you can go home and decompress with. You can talk to, whether that be girlfriend, wife, mom, aunt, whoever that person is for you. And he was just really dejected. And so it's bad enough that we don't immerse ourselves in this environment nearly enough. Now we have our family being naysayers. And I'll be honest, my mom was like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling that." And I finally just had to say, "Mom, I appreciate that."
Did she say she wasn't feeling it because she was concerned for your well being?
Right.
Right. Because that's a different.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what I think when, and I talk to you all the time. Hey, bro, be safe, get home. Right. Because I know there's some risk with it. Right. So that's what I was just curious. So was he a police officer elsewhere and was trying to join, or he just
No,
trying to become an officer?
he wants nothing more than to be a police officer.
And I don't want to touch on why he didn't, why he got passed over. I want to, keep business information business.
Right. No, so that's what he wants to do. But so I told him, I said, "There's two things I want you to do. One, I want you to have a conversation with your aunt. Right? Just give it to her. Give it to her straight up. And I don't know y'all relationship. So you manage it however is best for your
Right.
relationship." I said, "But I think it's important that you have a conversation because this is something that you really want to do. This is one of your biggest hurdles, right? Everyone needs a cheering section. If your cheering section is not behind you, that's a problem.
Right.
And we need to be standing up for our people who are trying to do something righteous. And that is a prime
Absolutely.
example. You and I talk about all the time where we can't get anybody going to a graduation party, but somebody get out of prison,
Everybody's there.
and the park is packed.
We got to do better.
Right. And so this is kind of one of those same examples. And I said, two things I want you to do: talk to your aunt, right, and let me know how that conversation goes. I said, and depending on how that conversation, if you think it's worth me driving now, he lives an hour away from me. If it's worth your time, me driving to come talk to you and her, I'm happy to do it. We can just set it up. Second thing is, so I want you to reapply. Don't give up on your dream, man. If there's something in front of you that your heart, your core says this is for me, pursue that. Pursue with everything.
Even if it's a different department.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to be here. Pursue it with all your heart, because and he's a spiritual guy. I call him a kid. Everybody's a kid. I feel like a kid to me
Right.
now.
If you're younger. Right.
And yeah, you don't have to be here, but don't give up on that.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I want to work with people who look like me, but if that doesn't work out that way,
I want what's best for you,
right,
more than anything else.
Yeah. So we just we got to do better in that regard, and that's kind of where it was with my kids, right? You don't get to come in here and tear down everything that's been built for you. And right now, building a business that I intend to be able to include my children in, should they decide that they want to get in on it. And how amazing would it be to have them graduating high school, be 20, 21 years old, and be able to make six figures, as a 20-year-old, and then working for themselves essentially.
Right. Right.
So the design is so that to build this company as big as it possibly can. And so when they take it over, I got 3 kids plus my wife and I. We split it 4 ways, assuming that everybody wants in. Build it up, hand it to them. We split it 4 ways. You continue working it.
Something that wasn't offered to you growing up.
Right. And that's, as a parent, that's my entire goal. I tell my kids all the time, my job as a parent is to make sure your life is better than mine.
Absolutely.
And I tell them, I said, right now, you're at 15, 12, and 10. I said, where you are right now, miles above where I was at your age. Right. And that's not me patting myself on the back. That's me trying to give you perspective.
Right.
Because I'm still going to do it. I probably do it this summer, but I'm going to bring them up here. I'm going to drive them through the Heights. I'm going to drive them through LaSalle Park Homes. I'm going to drive them by my childhood house, which is an empty lot right now, not even a house on it anymore, so that they can understand, like, y'all see dad today. You see,
right.
See the big house and the cars in the driveway. And I'm not materialistic, but,
But they need to see that.
Right.
Right. Because we didn't see that growing up, at least not at the house.
Right. In their family, the families within our city, because we live in, if where I lived had a suburb, we live in the suburbs. Right. And so, but I'm not saying we're in the bottom of that rung, but there are rungs that are much higher than where we are. And so they see where XYZ lives here and they get this and that, such and such has a cell phone. Cool. I don't have any kids named such and such. I ain't gonna do with that.
Right.
So My 15-year-old has a cell phone, but only because she's involved in enough activities where it
She's
needs
got
to
to be
happen.
outside
Right.
of the house and outside of the normal.
And my other two have cell phones too, but they're prepaid phone. And when they're at home, it's in the drawer. They go off to the store, go to a friend's
Right.
house,
That's for safety
after
purposes.
school activities, take it with you. But once you get home, turn it off, put it in the drawer. It doesn't belong in your bedroom, right? It's not for games and all this other. Maybe if we do a road trip, you can take it. But like I said, it's prepaid, so you use it up. We done for the
Right.
month.
Right. Catch me on the first.
Right.
So I'm just laughing. I was still thinking about the internet the one time. It's a different story. But no, it is good to show. My kids are older, right? My son is 28, which is crazy to even say that out loud. My daughter's 22, but my son grew up with us through. He went through all of it with us, right? Like my first job with him as a dependent, I made $4.05 an hour, right? Which is insanity because I would work 40 hours and not see $170,
Crazy.
right? It's a matter of fact, I think it was $162 before taxes, right? It was right, which is crazy. But he grew up kind of seeing the different things. When my daughter was born, because we had kids early, right? And my wife and I said, listen, cool, we like it. It was a great idea, but we're not having another kid until we make this amount of money because there were some surprises I wasn't ready for, right? But so when we had my daughter, we were in a little different place financially. Still not there, but better. And as my daughter got older, we continued to improve, and my daughter and son started to see more things. But one thing I always did is I always to take my kids to Harrison School Park to play. Right, I want you to play with kids that look like y'all. Number one, but I also want you to play with kids and see people from a different environment, right? Because you may not have as much as your friends, but you're living a pretty good, safe life, right? And I want to make sure you understand you don't disrespect people. You understand that everybody comes from a different space, right? So these kids may not have a lot, but to other people, you don't have a lot, right? But you want the same level of respect no matter what. And I wanted to keep my kids humble, if you will, right? So we always used to go to the hood and play at the parks, so they can interact with not just people, because their friends were from all walks of life, but I wanted them to also have some experience with black people, right? Because we didn't have a lot of that in the neighborhoods we were living in, and at least until it got unsafe to take my kids to where I was taking them to.
Right.
But it's weird because I'm doing okay, but my daughter has a friend who, for her very first car, her 16th birthday, they bought her a $200,000 G wagon, right? I remember one time she spent the night over here. I took her home. I pull up, there's a Lambo and a Bentley in the driveway, and I'm like, yeah, we not like that, right? We don't have that, right? And but my kids never said, man, I wish we had that, because they learned. My son especially because he knew. Um, but anyway, as we grew up, having my son and this, my point of this part of the conversation is having a father figure matters because as black men, we're looking for guidance, right? So when I grew up, like I said, my mom and dad got a divorce when I was younger. My dad lived in Annapolis. He was in my life, but he was in. We didn't have the internet, right? We had house phones. So if he wasn't home,
I still have.
right, right, I couldn't get a hold of him.
Right.
Right, there was no emailing dad. There's no FaceTiming, texting, none of that. So there was negative influences all around me. Guys who wanted to lead you right in the wrong direction.
Right.
I remember you said something earlier when we were on the phone. When we grew up, drug dealers stood on the street corners, right? There was no selling drugs on the internet, none of that. They were on the block,
Right.
right? So, if they got robbed on the block, you saw it, right? I remember waking up every morning to loud music in the car, my neighbor banging 6:30 in the morning, he on the corner slanging, right? Um, and that was what I remember seeing a lot of, right? And he was the man, right? He was the guy who had a lot of money, right? He was the guy who had the nice stuff. And then another one of and these people were older than me. I was younger, my brother's age. Another one of our friends, same thing, right? He grew up super poor, like most of us did. He started getting in the streets. He started getting money, and so everybody I saw that had something nice was in the streets,
Right.
right? Because we didn't have that. My mom was very adamant. She said, "Listen, I'd rather visit you in jail than in the cemetery. So if you do something wrong, I'm gonna tell them." Right? And she told all of us that. Now I made some bad decisions. I'm not gonna sit there and lie. I did some things in my youth to get myself into a different financial position because I didn't think there was another way. Again, I had influences, right? But it was always what was around me. But I realized I had people behind me who were saying, listen, you need to do the right thing. So it didn't take negative experiences for me to learn. I learned about my mistakes. I didn't learn from my mistakes.
Right.
Right. So I straightened my life up. But
Struggle with that.
I look at some of my son's friends, right? So we were the house that all the kids stayed at. Right. All the kids, I always liked the kids coming to our house. Right. When my wife and I, we didn't have a big house at the time, but the kids always came over. So I knew all of my son's friends, they all, hey, Mr. Brevard, blah, blah, blah. So we would always have people at the house. So I knew his friends, and as they started to grow up, right, I knew which ones had dads, which ones didn't. So the ones that didn't really have dads, I tried to be a little more father figure-ish, right? I mean, I got to take care of mine, but I'm gonna, try to give you that role model.
Stepkids, right?
Like, listen. I respect stepfathers. I could never be one, right? Just man, don't even get me on that one. But anyway. So my point is, we're gonna circle back to that one. So the point of that is, as my son has a friend who's doing 100 years in prison. He is 28, 29 right now. This kid was a good dude, but he didn't have his father wasn't in his life the right way. I think he might have been on drugs or something like that, or he had some alcohol problems. His mom was in prison. He was raised by his grandma, right? Great woman, but she was too old to really raise that, like, and keep the negative influences from around him. And he did some bad things. Like, there's no question he's supposed to be where he's at, right? But there was opportunities, right, for him to change if he had the right people in his life 24/7. You got to have somebody, if not 24/7, 8 hours a day, right? Somebody needs to be around to straighten you up, because the negative influences around there ate him up. And I was talking to him because he actually he called me. He asked, because one of his relatives works for a customer of mine, and they were like, "Hey man, he really wants to talk to you." So I talked. I said, "Here's my number. Have him call me however you want. I'll pay. Doesn't matter." And I talked to him, and he's like, "Mr. Brevard, man, I was finally trying to get my life right." He said, "But what all the bad stuff I'd done kept up with me. So when I tried to do right, I was going places with my family, and people would shoot at us and this and that. And it was because of actions he had done before, gang related stuff." And he said, "Man, I really tried to do right." He said, "But by the time I wanted to straighten my life up, I was in survival mode. I had no choice but to carry a gun with me, because I'd done so much bad stuff to people. People were looking for me pretty much everywhere I went." And I just thought, like, man, this is the same little kid. He was a basketball star, right? In elementary and middle school, he was the man. But when he got to high school, the influences changed, right? The people around him changed, and he didn't have that dad to come home to be like, "Listen, okay, I don't care about that mess you heard at school. Get your shit together." My son had another friend, same similar story. He was a smart kid. He had a great mom, but he didn't have that father role model. His father, I don't even know. I never met his father. Never, we used to be at basketball games and football games, but I've never ever seen his father. I don't know if he was. I know he wasn't. He didn't pass away, but he just wasn't around. Fast forward. I remember looking. I'm a busted Michiana fan, right? I look at that page all the time, and I see this young man. It's armed carjacking. I'm like, holy shit, right? Because when I think about it, this is the same little dudes. They were running around and spending the night in my house. A couple of us, other friends, they have kids. You know, they had them at a young age, and I can't knock it because I did too, right? But my goal was to instill in my kids, hey, listen, don't make the mistakes I made,
Right.
right? I did a lot of craziness to make sure my kids didn't have to do any crazy, right? And I tell my kids the same thing my mom told me: you act up if you want to. Uh, I'll tell on you, right? Hey, don't do no crazy. You can't come here. Yeah, I did. Well, let's go talk to the people,
Right.
right? I give my kids the opportunity, and I've always given my kids the opportunity. Come to me with anything,
Right.
anything at all,
And that's communication, right?
right?
And we as a
But
as
I
a
gotta
culture,
find out from you first,
yeah, as a
because if
culture,
I find out from them first, right, something's wrong,
we struggle
right?
with that, and we don't feel like we can come to our people because we feel like we're gonna be judged. I got friends um, who look so highly upon me that they don't share their their bad stuff, thinking that I'm
Mhm.
going to judge them. Hey, we all have bad stuff. The difference is, like you and me, uh, it don't go on the internet. I'm
Right.
I'm dealing with it. And I'm dealing with it at the source. I'm talking to the people,
Hmm.
to the person, dealing with the issue organically. And you would never know something was wrong unless you're close to me and I trust you with that
Right. Right.
information. Um, but we got these so many devices and so much access to so much stuff, and we crowdsource. We crowdsource everything,
Man.
right? And I'm not going to crowdsource my relationship status,
Nah.
or
Right.
the disagreement in my household. Like, I'm gonna crowdsource that with my wife.
Right.
That's as
With
far
the
as that
crowd
goes.
that you created, right? And that's what I always say in my house. I'm like, listen, I created the Rivards in my house, right? I made my wife my wife. She took my last name. We created our children. I had somebody say, man, y'all never fight. Oh, bro, you just don't be here. That's in the house, right? We have disagreements. We're human, right? I'm a man and my wife's a woman, and which means she always wants to be right. I'm probably gonna get in trouble for that. But we don't. There's no reason for me to open the front door and yell so my neighbors know what's going on, which is the same equivalent to me of getting on Facebook and saying the same thing, right? There's people don't understand communication. There is no perfect, easy, simple marriage. We're going to have disagreements because you have two people coming from different backgrounds, even if they're from the same neighborhood, whatever. You're gonna have fights.
And you should.
That's how you grow. Communicate.
And because when something big happens, you can lean on the other disagreements, the other arguments that you've had as strength. How do we get through that? How do we navigate this difficult situation? I'm not afraid to have difficult conversations.
Absolutely.
And so the rule that I have, I say a rule in my house. I don't make it sound like I have a lead thumb in my house, but the rule is, we got a problem. We're gonna deal with the problem.
24 hours
About it. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna discuss it, and we're gonna come to a conclusion, resolution. And then once we're done, it's a wrap. There's no tally marks.
No, we're getting through it.
Bring it back tomorrow, right?
When we done, we're done.
It's over,
right?
And so you don't get to circle back and go, oh, and another thing. No, you had your chance.
Put on the table,
right?
That's interesting you say that because I'm similar. I told my wife, listen, we have an issue on Monday. We have a resolution on Monday. We might be able to take the resolution to Tuesday, but I don't want to hear Thursday about a problem that happened Monday because now we have a communication breakdown. I'm not saying if it was my fault that we want to talk about it, but we have a communication breakdown because we don't went some days without addressing this, which means it affected every other part of our life. Right? Because if you're mad, you're mad.
Right. And we're keeping score at the point.
Right. And right. I'm like, man, listen, if I do something wrong, speak on it. And I'm going to speak on it if I feel like you do something. When I say do something wrong, it don't mean anything bad. Right? Something you don't like. Right? Again, we've been together over 30 years. So we've always had things where like, hey, one of my boys, one time we were in Chicago. This is the time when me and the wife lived in Atlanta. And my boy's in Chicago. He's like, man, I got an extra ticket to this fight in Vegas, ringside. I'm like, I'm there. I'm like, but how much is it? Because I ain't prepared for this. He's like, dude, I got you on the ticket. I got you on the flight. And I'm going to fly your wife back home because I was on the way to drive. I said, babe. She said, nope. I said, tell me how the fight is, bro. Right? Because it wasn't that I want to go, but I know who my guy is. And she knows who my guy is. And I know the ring was going to be fine. It's the after the party.
Do you want to go see the fight or you want to be
in the fight? Right. And I know my guy. And she knows my guy. So she was like, hey, no, let's not do that. Man, I wanted to go. I still want to go. And that fight went over for 10 years. Right. But I respect, my wife because that fight ain't worth whatever comes with it after. Right. And that's one of the things I was having a discussion with one of my guys. I'm like, man, you got to realize that when you ask a woman to be your wife, that becomes the most important person in your life. She's going to create the children with you, of course. She's going to create your children, your offspring, your next generation. If somebody else who doesn't live with you, who doesn't provide for your family, who doesn't do any of those things, can come in and magically have more influence in your life or more importance, something's wrong. Right? So I was downtown earlier, me, my wife, and then one of my guys walked in and we're talking. Right. And we're talking about a relative of mine. And I'm like, man, I get mad at dude because he makes some dumb decisions, right? To hang out with his boys. I'm like, bro, you have a woman, a good woman. And you're choosing to hang out with your guys when she would prefer you hang out with her. I'm not saying you can't go out and have fun with your friends, but this particular person goes out a lot. I'm like,
speaking of which, we do for a boys trip. Just saying.
I'm just saying, right? So that's another topic, right? So I was talking to one of my guys. Oh man, married women can't take girls trips. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, if she want to do that, she ain't wife material. I said, well, first off, you don't have a wife, right? And I throw that at people all the time. You can't tell me what wife material is if you don't have it, right? I'm learning to admit through my podcasting, I don't know what single life is like because I'm not in it,
right?
But it's like, oh, if a girl takes a girls trip, she's gonna act up. And he'd be like, man, let's go on this trip. I'm like, bro, do you hear what you just said? You want me to hang out with you who's a single. Yeah, but you a man. I agree, right? But if you believe that on one side, it's got to be some on the other. I mean, personally, I'll pay for my wife and her friends to go.
Man, look, I've done it.
Go.
Hey,
Listen, go have fun.
and most times I go and call her friends first. Hey, are you available on this date and
Right.
time? Can I send her to you? Right. I did it a couple years ago. Pre
There's nothing wrong with that.
COVID. Right. My wife needs a break. Can I send her out to you? And so, all right, cool. What days work? All right, bet those days work for me. All the tickets. Hey, babe, I need to tell you something. What's up? You're going to Colorado next week. What are you talking about? I've already spoke to such and such. You're gonna stay at their house. They're gonna pick you up from the airport. Boom.
Everything's set. Pack a
Flight's
bag.
done. Right. I'll take you to the airport. And you're good to go.
And see, this is a part where I think a lot of men don't have comfortability or security in themselves, right? So I have a homie. He's adamant. If he's with a woman 30 years and she take a girl trip, he's done. I'm like, bro, what? Oh, she's putting herself out there like she wants to be have men talk to her. I said, what do you mean? Well, she's gonna be out with people. I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you a secret you may not know. She don't really grocery store, right? You don't have to get overseas. I'm like, the mentality of that woman is the mentality of where she is no matter what,
Right.
right? If she's going to be unfaithful, it doesn't take a trip out of the country, out of the state, out of the city for her to do that. Unless you're gonna put her in a cage while you go to work, which I pray nobody does, right?
We know one person.
Well,
Talk about that.
different, yeah, right. That I think that might be more fun than something else for them. But anyway, you can't. I couldn't imagine living my life worried about what my woman when I'm not there, right? So, and you know me, you've known me for a while. I used to jump on a plane and go to China for 3 weeks. I go to India for 3 weeks. I go to Amsterdam. I go to all these different Mexico, South Korea, all these different places, right? Well, I'm 18 hours ahead on time, right? And I never once worried about my wife. I take care of home, and granted, I'm not here 24. I'm never going to be here 24/7. And a big part of who I have as my wife is who she is. I need to be able to have that trust and faith in you, right? Because I'm not really worried about what you're doing with your body. If I can't trust you there, we have financial obligations that I'm more concerned with.
Finances.
Right. You have access to my assets.
And your heart. Right.
Right. My heart. If I can't trust you to, I'm gonna use the word behave, but you know what I'm saying. To act appropriately for the position you hold. Are you a wife? If I can't trust you to act accordingly, you shouldn't be my wife. I shouldn't have made you my wife.
Take it a step further, right? When you were going on those trips 3 weeks at a time. Hey, bro, I'm in town. I'm gonna swing by your house. Check on the wife.
Check on the wife for me.
Hey, nah, bro, I don't need you to do that. Don't touch my wife, right? Then what's that's insecurity.
Right.
I mean, I walked in tonight. Hey, bro, can I hug your wife?
Right. We've been friends and family for forever. That's normal stuff to me.
Right.
Right. But some dudes are crazy.
We had a similar conversation with my wife today. Before I left the house, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna spend the night." And I said, somebody said something about I saw some my little nephews were there, and I was like, "I'm going to go to my friend's house. We're going to have sleepover because they're 5." And I was like, "Well, actually, I don't know if I'm gonna sleep over." They babysitting some cats right now, house sitting some cats. And my wife looked at me. She said, "Ooh, because I'm allergic." She's like, "Well, where are you gonna stay?" And I was like, "I'll probably just use the Marriott points and go to Marriott around the corner if I have to." And she's like, "Oh." And I looked at her. I said, "Listen to the security in our marriage, right?"
I mean, that's normal, right? I mean,
like a man tells his wife he's going out of town and he's going to go stay at a hotel, and she doesn't blink, doesn't flinch.
I mean,
Right?
that's
There's
normal.
security in that relationship.
That's a normal relationship, right? It is crazy because that's far from normal. Not that's what should be normal,
Right.
but today's normal is not, right? I've done a lot of traveling, and I've never had an issue. Well, I had one issue one time. It was a long time ago, many moons ago. I think I was with our buddy, and we went down there, and where you were at, we ended up staying somewhere else. I don't even tell my wife because we're supposed to. I think we're supposed to stay with y'all. It was me and Terrence, right? Well, it was a long time. I don't know if you remember. It was a long time ago. Anyway, for some reason we didn't even catch up with you. So we ended up getting a hotel. No, well, it wasn't my side. It wasn't my side, right? We ended up getting a hotel. I didn't even say anything major to the wife. I'm just anyway. So his girl at the time wasn't wife yet. At the time, kept calling the hotel like, where was it? Dude was drunk. At the time, I didn't drink. Right? He's tore up. He won't wake up. What do you want me to do? right? I'm elbowing her. So she took it upon herself to say, "Oh, y'all must not be in the same hotel room." Because whenever I travel with my guys, I would get a hotel with 2 beds, right? You can have one; it's cool. Ain't no point in us spending double money. We ain't doing nothing,
Not at all.
right? So we'll split the room, get 2 beds, we straight. It's like 3 something in the morning when she's calling, and I can't get him up. I'm like, dude, I'm laughing because my dude's drunk. He can't get up. I had to carry him to the room, right? So no big deal. I'm like, I'm giggling. I gotta get some sleep though. So I hang up. My phone rings 5 minutes later. It's my wife. Hello? She's not happy. So and so just said you and Terrence are in different hotel rooms, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, because that's a concern. If because you know how we travel. Anytime I travel, I always get even when I'm by myself, I get 2 beds in case one of my guys, man, who ain't never traveled, want to travel. Hey man, come out. I got you. You just gotta pay your airfare. But late night, like, why would we have 2 rooms unless something going down? So now I'm upset. So I gotta wake you up. So I grabbed the whole mattress, bed, everything, rolled him over. I'm like, bro, get up, call your wife, because now I'm in trouble. Right? That's the only time I've ever had a problem with not with staying in the room. And it was because somebody else's wife,
Right.
and I wasn't mad at my wife because the phone call she got, so I would have acted up. I would have verified. But at the time that the phone call occurred, 3:34 in the morning,
Right.
that's never a good call. So, but and I know I was just rambling, but we should have that security in our relationship, right? And I talk to a lot of insecure men, and I tell them all the time, like, bro, there's nothing you can do to change somebody's behavior. They either want to be right or they don't, right? Now I understand wanting to protect your wife, not want to put her in awkward positions and situations where somebody else might be able to do something and overpower her, do something to hurt her. But outside of that, if you want to go somewhere, go. Make sure you're safe. That's all I care about.
Right. What can I do for you?
Right. I send my wife and and daughter on trips and all kind of take your friend, take wherever you want to go with.
Yeah,
Like, go have fun.
my wife had a work trip a couple months ago. March. She was like, well, her boss came to me and was like, hey, this is conference next week, or this is conference coming up. I want your wife to go, but she won't go. What are you talking about? So I said, when is it? She's like, well, it's next week. I'm like, it's Thursday.
Right. Next week sound like Monday, like 4 days.
So so I like, give me the details. Let me look at it. I look at the details and I look at my schedule. I'm like, we got no conflicts. My wife's like, oh, because we got the Fosters, and she's like, man, logistically, it's just too many moving parts. It's just not gonna work. There's no way I can do it. So I went to give me an hour, and so I went and say, hey, your boss tell me that you turned down this conference. What's up? It's just it's next week. It's too much and logistics. We got the kids and
Right.
I got it. I said I'm off next week anyway. I don't even work, so I ain't gotta take no days off. I already don't work. Uh, I'm just as much part of this house as you are, so I'm always leaving on my business trips or work trips. You going to this conference. If for no
It's
other reason,
beneficial.
right?
You need a break
If no other reason, you ain't got to be responsible for nobody but yourself.
for a change.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So instead of being mother hen, get the department credit card and go do whatever you gotta do.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did, and she was relieved. And so I don't know if we'll be able to do that every year because it sounds like she had a great time at the conference, a lot of great information, but her job paid for it, and so
That time.
right. And so maybe every other year, even if they don't pay for it, I'll pay for it.
Right.
But because it's not a cheap conference, but if you get enrichment and growth out of it, I'm not tripping. And so
Invest in your wife.
all right, and so my wife and I, when we first met, and we met when T9 texting was still a thing, and nights and weekends.
Right.
were the
Right. We
minutes.
talking after 7
Right.
or 9 if I don't have to.
9,
Right. If I don't
9.
got the good stuff.
So, but I lived here and she lived outside Chicago, and so she had a full-time job. I had 2 full-time jobs, and so we found time to communicate with each other when we needed to. And one of the ways that our relationship worked was that when we were gone, like she go visit, and she's very family oriented, which is one thing I absolutely love about her. Um, and she be at her grandparents' house in Wisconsin, and I can't get through to her. Like I'll call her, text her, and there'll be 3-4 hours before I get a text back or a call back. And if she called, I mean, it was like 90 seconds. Hey, I just want to check in. I just want to say hi, hear your voice. But my family's here, so I'm gonna let you go. And
Right, I mean, that's
at first I was like, man, I just got this dog. But then I got to see and then I met her family, and I got to see the emphasis that her family put
family
on
is serious.
right? And so, like for Christmas, for example, her two sides of the family, they're still together. You know, grandma and grandpa over here still married. Over here, grandpa passed away several years ago, but the family units are still strong.
Mhm.
And so they have traditions. For example, on Christmas Eve, it's my paternal grandparents. At Christmas Eve is always at their house, and everybody and their mom come in, cram in the house. We fry like chickens at Chick-fil-A at Popeyes, right? It's hot in the house, but
Right.
on Christmas Eve, that's what we do. Have dinner together, and we open gifts, and it's a really good time. And then on Christmas Day, we go over here. And bro, when I say that they can sit, I say we, I'm part of it now, but we sit in the house for 8, 10, 12 hours consecutively. Anybody arguing, anybody fighting. Uh,
Mm.
if anybody leave, it's just so they can go let their dog out and come back. I mean,
It's about family.
right, and I mean, there's alcohol involved, so even with alcohol in the mix,
No problem.
there's no problem at all
That's
ever,
good family.
right? And so when she's gone or when I'm gone, even in 2 or 3 days, we'll tap in. We text every now and again, how you doing? Love you, check in. Am I miss anything? Cool. All right, have a great day. And because I have kids now, every other day I make sure I do a video call. My middle child specifically,
Right.
I she's gotten better now, but not that long ago, I could like, well, Dad's going on a trip tomorrow. Waterworks. What's the problem? I already miss you. And so all right, give me 48 hours. I'm not going. I'm gonna see your face. You're gonna see mine every other day. Um, so I get to 2 days away from home, and I'm like, I'm ready to go back to the crib. No matter what the trip is, no matter what the reason is, I'm ready to go back home. Now I can't leave early because that's my money, but
Right. Right.
at least technology now allows us to check in and tap in when we
Yeah,
need
it's
to.
just different.
So had you had FaceTime at the hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning, you could have
Man,
disproved me.
it would have been a better time. Right. I'm flipping the phone up to answer it. It was no cameras or
Right.
nothing, man. Hey, when you said 3 nights a week, and I'm like, damn, I'm old. Because when me and the wife was dating, if we wanted to talk on a cell phone, it was like $3 a minute,
Ooh,
which was every 3 minutes was
was
3 hours worth of work.
that was 45 minutes.
You know what I'm saying?
45 minutes of work.
Man, nah, bro, I get $3 a minute. I mean, yeah. So I guess
You're
1 minute.
hourly.
Yeah,
You're
right. I'm like, man, if I talk to her for 3 minutes, I'd have burned 3 hours worth of work. Just come to the job.
right.
You know what I'm saying? But
You said 25 cents. Get on a transport. Come see me.
man, man, that was. And I worked at Scottsdale Mall in the arcade. Right? I was like, man, that was horrible. But no, it's crazy because and we do things as families. We go out and we go dinner and stuff like that. It is great to see another happy couple, right? Because not everybody's that way, right? And I think having happiness in the home is a big impact on the kids.
Oh,
My kids are grown now, so they come over, we all joke around, they say something smart to their mom. I'm like, hey, don't catch these hands,
right.
right? Leave my wife alone. Don't play, right? She's still number one. She's always been number one. Don't get me wrong. Our goal was to love our kids, raise our kids, but I knew from day one, if we do this right, they move out, right? And then if we don't do nothing else but focus on them when they move out, we're gonna be looking at each other like, "Owls, who are you?" You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know each other. So we've always focused on each other as well as the family.
Yeah. If
Um,
we didn't exist, y'all wouldn't exist. So,
man,
how are we gonna put each other first, and then all of a sudden we switch roles, and now it's all about them?
right,
We can't, like you said, we can't maintain what we have because once you're no longer in the picture, we look at each other like we're stupid. We don't
right.
know each
Like
other
I don't
anymore.
know who you are. I don't remember you.
Right.
Like where's the kids? Bring kids back and we have fun. And again, as I start going down the podcast journey, and I'm talking to single men and single women, and I'm talking to various couples, or you know, I realize the dating market and what people believe in is so different, right? Like today, I was talking to a guy, 'cause I try to interview people a little bit on the internet, kind of talk to guys like, oh man, if you put a woman on a pedestal, she's gonna cheat on you and leave you. And I'm like, bro, you're supposed to put your woman on a pedestal. And if that's the belief you have in your head, you're telling yourself before you get a chance to get to this chick that she's gonna be below, she's gonna be, you ain't gonna let her shine, right?
Expect failure.
I mean, that's it. You know, um, I'm talking to men and women, right? Because women have some unreal expectations too. Like I got a friend, she's like, I need a dude making $100,000 a year, this, that, and the other. I'm like, you take about 4 years to make 100,000. You cannot ask this man to come in. You have other people's children. That's a big ask, right? But again, I'm old school, right? And I know some people don't like the term old school. I'm old school. I'm traditional.
I'm there.
I'm gonna do the man shit. Last night my buddy was over here. We were sitting down drinking in the basement, sipping, chilling in the bar. My wife's down there watching TV or whatever, and she looked at me. She said, "Somebody's in the house, right?" And she didn't move because she's not supposed to,
Not at all.
right? So I go because like that's my role, right? I go look, and there's nobody in the house. I got these cats. We forget we got the cats. We hear people running around. I gotta go up here and see if I gotta die or not. You know what I'm saying, right? But that's my point of saying that is when I look at the relationship we have, it is not 50-50. Not going to sit here and pretend it's 50-50. There are rooms in this house I still haven't cleaned yet, right? But she cleans them, right? She cleans the room. She does this, all this stuff. She cooks more than I do. She does certain things. She does the traditional woman role, right? I do the provide protection. But if something happens, I'm putting my life on line, not her, right? And that's what I try to explain to some people. I said, man, y'all want, a lot of people, these women today want 50-50. And that's cool, but you still want that traditional man in the back of your mind. And I would have been, there's no way I let my wife get up and go see what the noise was that's in the house.
No, it's crazy. For me, it's even crazy to even try to enumerate your relationship. Like what 50-50, 70-30, 80-20, what are we talking about?
Right. It's a unit.
Right. Because if one of us ain't here, one of us got to pick up the slack.
Absolutely.
More stuff don't get done.
Right.
And so we're not even doing 80-20, we're doing 60-0.
Right.
But because we don't define, one book I highly recommend for couples, highly recommend, is Five Love Languages. It's an older book, and there's nothing magical about it. But, you know, the five love, and I can always only remember four for whatever reason. So you got physical touch, words of affirmation, uh, acts of service, time. Like I said, I'm missing one. I always miss it.
I can pull it up if I need to.
No, we good. But so ours are different. And so my two first one is words of affirmation, and then physical touch from my wife.
I mean, I wasn't gonna reach, but I appreciate you putting it down like that.
Because as a man, I'm wired to want to know when I'm doing something right or doing something well, so I can
be appreciated
doing that.
Right, appreciated and respected for what the sacrifice.
Right, and so she knows, hey, thank you for doing that. Appreciate you building this thing, whatever. And I'm not the most handy person, but even if I pay to do to come do it, hey, thanks for make sure I got done. Right. Hers is acts of service. Nothing is better for her than to come home and she ain't got to clean, she ain't got to cook, no dishes are in the sink, right? Because she works too. We both work.
Right.
I work a lot, and I don't quantify. I'm not. It's not a competition,
right?
And so my goal is to build a business where I can look at my wife and go, babe, I think it's time you quit your job and just work for our business.
Mm-hmm.
My insurance will carry us, and she can just qualify everything at home. Working from the house. Our kids are older now, so I don't know that she would enjoy that because she like me, she likes to be busy, and she does an amazing job with what she does. And she would be sorely missed if she left her job. But I would love to get to a point to where we have to look at each other and go, we need to make a serious decision, right? Do you continue working? And I think she's near vested in her retirement anyway. So on the logistical side, financial side, it could make sense. It'll free up her time during the day, and then she could field emails, phone calls, and I do the labor, the dragging, right? But we don't. I mean, I guess if you looked at it, we do have gender roles, but we don't even outline what those are. We just know that this needs to be done, and so we get it done, right? I've never once come to her and said, "You make more or less than me, so I'm compensating for this way."
Yeah, I don't know why people do that.
It's crazy.
It is.
I couldn't care less if my wife made more than me, right? Now my hustle's strong, so I usually, last year was my best year to date, right? And so now I have another benchmark in my brain. Go, all right, cool. I hit that one, and I knew a couple 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, I want to hit this number, and then I hit it last year.
You got to work. You got to have something to work towards,
right?
Otherwise, you just keep smooth sailing,
right? And it surprised me because I wasn't out here just breaking my back trying to get it done. I found ways to be a bit more efficient, and I got it done. And so once February came and I opened up in W-2s, I'm looking, I'm like, carry the one. Oh man,
I made it.
oh wow,
I made
okay.
that goal.
And I blew it up. And so now next number. And so
Mhm.
my financial guy, my financial advisor was like, why was that number important to you? It's like, 'cause I'd never seen it before. It's just, if you don't have an idea where you want to go,
You
then
gonna get
you're
there.
floundering, right?
Right,
You
right.
just everything is everything. And so, and for me, like you, money's not everything to me, right? Now, there's certain
You
uh,
gotta have it,
comforts that you can have.
right? But
Right? I told somebody yesterday, I said, I want to get to the point where my discretionary income is incredibly discretionary.
right, right, right.
Right. So, uh, but what's mine is hers. And like you, I fully intend to be married for the rest of my natural life.
Man, absolutely. I don't, you know, I don't get it, right? So again, I'm digging in the podcast. I'm hearing guys, if I'm paying all the bills, she doing this. But I got with my wife young, right? So when I started working, she was making more than me, right? What the hell? I gotta just keep beeping though. But she was making more than me, right? There was times where it fluctuated, and there was times when I said, listen, I need to make some decisions and some moves that's going to better the family in the long run. But what it's going to do in the short run is put more financial burden on you, right? Because I'm gonna have to work overnight, right? So I can do this during the day to better ourselves. But this job that I get overnight is going to be it's going to take a hit on the finances, right? I'm not going to make as much, but we just got to carry it for a year or two so I can change the direction of where we're going. She did it, right? Without, hey, listen, that's a family discussion. That's a family decision. And we have those discussions and we should be able to have those discussions, right? I don't make a decision about my family without talking to my family, right? Like if I'm when I started my first business, mm, it was a serious discussion because at the time, right, I was making I think I had a base salary of 105,000 or something like that, and I told my wife, listen, I want to start this business. Here's what I can guarantee: nothing, right? I can guarantee nothing. So let's talk about it. Right? Let's talk through it because maybe I'm jumping the gun here, right? I want to hear your opinion, your thoughts, because what decision I make put you in the same boat I'm in. We immediately lose $105,000 a year the second I quit this job, and I can't do them both simultaneously. So I want to do this, um, but I need you to tell me if I'm stupid, for lack of better terms. And I said it to her. Tell me if I'm being stupid, right? Because again, I came from not having a lot, and at the time, I'm like, I'm comfortable,
Mhm.
right? And I'm ready to give this up to try to do something different. Am I being stupid? Should I be comfortable where I'm at and just say, okay, blessed. Let's just not mess it up. And she said to me, she said, I have faith in you. She said, I have faith in you that you're going to make the decisions and put in the effort to work and do what's best for the family. If I've got to carry the weight more, so be it. If we've got to scale back and we've got to sacrifice, so be it. I'm going to support you in your dream. But we have to be realistic. There's a certain point where we have to say, if it isn't working by this point,
Sure.
we need to redirect,
Right.
right? You can circle back, hustle up, try it again later, but we got to keep the family flowing. And so for me, that was real, right? Because again, she could have said, "We're good where we're at. Let's not mess it up,"
That's it.
and I would have respected that,
Right.
right? Because like I said earlier, we are all or nothing, right? If my wife wants to do something and I don't, it doesn't get done. If I want to do something she doesn't, and I'm talking major stuff, not go to the grocery store and a little small stuff like that, but things that impact the family. Um, and that was major for me, right? To know that I have her support on this issue, right? And it was scary, right? And I told her, and I'm gonna be real. There was a couple nights I came home scared to death, right? Like I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I'm talking real husband tears. Like, babe, I don't know. I think I might have made a mistake. She's like, you got just focus. Let me help you. Right? Let me help you focus on what you need to do. And then of course, I had some issues with my business partner. So as we went through that thing and navigated through that, we talked. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Right. And that's one of the key things when I talk to my guys, I'm like, man, y'all out here, my guys my age, over 40. I'm damn near 50. And they start talking about dating these young women. I'm like, man, how do you bounce an idea off a 22-year-old girl? Right? That's a life decision that she hasn't even got to a point of experience. And so for me, the the value of a woman, a smart, intelligent, strong woman is there's I can put a number on. I can't put an amount. I need that because there's going to be times when I falter.
Right.
Right. There's going to be times when I'm fail or I doubt myself, and I need you to be like, hey, you're right. You shouldn't do this,
Right.
or you can do this, but you got to do it this way because you're not. If you don't put this much effort in, or if you don't do this, you may not be successful. Right. And she carried more. Honestly, she carried more risk than me, right? Because she live a certain we live a certain lifestyle, and when I made that move, I'm okay having nothing. I had nothing to start. I can have nothing again. But she didn't come from nothing, right? So it's a lot more, in my opinion, it's more risk on her because she was with me when through the uncomfortables, right? The projects and everything else. So to have a woman that supports you and encourages you, right? She has a full time job. And I keep trying to get her to quit. Right? Just say, hey, just come work for me, or work with me because I prefer not to pay you. You know, it's still the same money, right? But it just feels better if we could just keep it in the pot. Um, but she works a full time job. When she gets off work, most times she works from my office, right? Because she's got her own desk in my office where she works. She does her thing all day while I'm running the business and doing my thing. But then she gets off work. She closes her work laptop and she opens the free work laptop, right? And she helps me run. She helps me run the business, right? Whether I mean, bro, taxes with a business is nuts. I'm like, babe, please talk to the accountant because the numbers are scaring me. I know we got to do it, but talk to the accountant, handle that. So she handles a lot of the accounting things with the accountant. She does a lot of stuff with our banker when we gotta, if I'm trying to, do a major project and I need to take a loan for something, she does a lot of that kind of stuff, and she does that because it's me. She's not being she is being compensated, but it's not like a check, right? Her compensation is the success of the family and the business. And that's just it's good to have. Um, but I think people don't understand the value of a wife and or the value of a husband. We have these social media make believe ideas of what a wife should be or a husband should be. A man should be paying 100% of everything, and a wife should shut up and do what she's told. And I'm just like, man, y'all are crazy.
Bro, I've never, and I know a lot of people, right? And I literally get paid to be observant and watch my surroundings, and just I people watch professionally. I've never known one single successful relationship where the man pays all the bills, and then even if the wife or the husband says, "I take care of home, her money's her money." I've never seen that ever work out. Because at some point she starts putting money away, and she's working on an exit strategy, whether she knows it or not.
It's a rainy day
Right?
fund.
Right. Whether she knows or not, and then that way, and then so, and it's crazy to say it, but all it takes is one day, one incident, and then she can just go, "I've got enough to get away. I got enough to break free." And so, even if that thought never crossed her mind for a second ever before, one bad incident, she can look at that bank slip and go, I can just make a clean break right now, right? And now, if you're married, it ain't that easy,
Right.
And so people talk about how marriage is just it's just piece of paper. If that's why you're getting married,
I
then
agree
yes,
with you.
it's just piece of paper.
Right. I agree with you.
But my heart and my soul has been poured into this woman since 2005, right? And there's a lot of things that's going to have to happen before her and I are no longer joined at the hip,
Man, it's gonna take a whole lot of action.
man. And
A
so,
whole lot of action.
having a wife who knows when to support you and knows when to check you is a beautiful thing,
It is. It really is.
man. I don't need a yes man. I don't want my wife to agree to everything I say. We talked about earlier about how we definitely fight. We should. It's healthy.
Right, because I'm not always right.
Conflict is a good thing.
Not
Healthy
90%,
conflict.
but I'm with you.
Right. Healthy conflict is a good thing because it teaches you conflict resolution.
Man.
How do you navigate these difficult decisions? How are you able, as a businessman, operating at a high level, how are you able to have these contract negotiation, price negotiations, and these customer service issues? How are you able to work through those? How? Why? Because you've been married, you've been with your girl for over 30 years, and so you've been doing it.
Right. It's
You've been practicing for this
contract
day.
negotiations every day.
Right. You've been practicing for this for 30-something years.
Right.
You don't just come out of college, because I worked near a college, and having watched them, they are not good at dealing with conflict. It's just
Different world.
right, and so, and what they view as conflict, I'm sitting there going like, y'all tripping on that?
Man.
What? That's what you're concerned about right now? Oh, we good. You ain't got no issues. But it's just a different world from two different eras.
I on the conflict resolution thing, I was talking to my buddy, and he's like, man, and again, talking about the dating. Oh, you don't know it's like these women out here shaming men, blah, blah, blah. I said, bro, I started dating a white girl in 92. If a woman on the internet shaming me, telling me this, that, and the other hurts my feelings, I would have jumped off of something back then because I'm like, y'all don't know real problems. If I struggle with the social media bullying because when I stumble across someone like on social media, I log off or block them. Right? And you can't bully me if I'm not there. So I struggle with people telling me, man, you don't know what it's like today, man. Everybody on social media is doing it. Get off. If I'm on bus number 6 and everybody's messing with me on bus number 6, I'm getting off bus number 6.
See how long it's been out since.
Right, I see you pulling the line. I wasn't gonna say nothing because yeah, that's that. I only rode him with the button for a short time.
Right.
But I felt that, right? I was like, oh yeah, he pulled the button, right?
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, but it's just different. Conflict resolution today is non-existent. People don't know how to deal with rejection. Like as young men, well, I'm gonna say y'all because I didn't get rejected, but but no, as young men, we got on the bus, we went to the mall. Hey, let me get your phone number. No, oh, okay, well, you probably wasn't that cute anyway, right? Whatever, you dealt with it, right? We dealt with rejection from the opposite sex. We dealt with rejection from people we wanted to be friends with that didn't like us. Okay, cool.
Right.
I don't fool with you. That's the extent of that, right? Today, it's not that way. They don't know, and I don't know what happened, right? But they don't know how to. The younger generation just doesn't know how to handle it, and they act out
Because the things are getting handled for them at all avenues.
every level, or there's no accountability.
Right.
It's
Someone's always stepping in for them or making excuses for them. Right?
Yeah.
And our parents didn't make any excuses for us.
You know what? Everybody I knew growing up that couldn't do no wrong, right, ended up in prison. Right? I remember this little kid. He was in the neighborhood. I don't want to say much because I don't know. I don't want to talk anybody particular story, but this kid could never do wrong. His grandmother was like, whatever happened was somebody else's fault, right? Like, dude, shanked somebody in middle school. That boy should have been messing with him. He stabbed him in the back, bro. I don't know if he was messing with him or not, but he was probably running away or something. Anyway, long story short, this kid ended up committing murder, went to prison, and the person he was with, it was an armed robbery, right? And the person he was with told on him because it was supposed to be an armed robbery that it turned into a murder. And dude's grandmother's like, he should have shot his ass too. I'm like, no, he shouldn't have been there. Right? But this is the mentality. But that was few and far between. Now it's the masses. Right? My baby can do no wrong. Shh. Yeah, he can. You just ain't looking at him.
Right.
Right. And I think a big part of that, and here's where I kind of go more traditional. This is my personal beliefs. Nobody else has to believe it. I believe men are more logical in our decision making, whereas women are more nature, right? They're nature based. They want to love and they want to take care of, right? And that's good. We need that. We need both sides of it, right? Because as a father, yeah, I love you, but I'm gonna correct you on this one, bro. You messed up, right? And I think especially these young men, are missing that, right? And even if it's not a father, or older, on track brother, uncle, cousin, whatever, and we're missing that today, and it shows, right? Again, there's nothing wrong with being emotional or sensitive, but when you lack masculinity in your life as a man, we don't handle. We have too much testosterone. Emotions don't mix very well with it.
No, and so I label it as are you a critical? There are two types of thinkers: critical thinker and emotional thinker. Do you process information based on the information that's available and in front of you, or do you process off of how you feel? Right,
it makes a difference.
I don't really do feelings. Feelings not included. Right?
Feelings not included.
I don't do feelings. Right, because they'll misguide you. Like how I'm feeling about a situation should not dictate how I respond to a situation. And that sounds crazy to be able to say that, but in my line of work, I can hate your guts,
but I can't treat you like it.
Right.
I shouldn't.
Right. And so, what's right is right, what's fair is fair. And so now, if what you put in front of me, as a police officer, if you give me cause to take away your freedom and take you to jail, then that's the information that's in front of me.
Right.
And I need to be able to. And I ask myself often, like, how would I respond in a situation if it weren't this person? Maybe we have history, or maybe they're running their mouth, and I have to talk myself out of taking people to jail sometimes. Like, all right, would you, I get that he's running his mouth, and it's annoying, but would you do this in other scenarios? And if I tell myself no, then I talk myself out of it, right?
That's logic, right? That's the logical side of it.
Right.
And I was telling my boy, I said, man, listen, I said, here's a prime example. He's hood, so I gotta keep it hood with him. I said, if you're in the car with your girl and somebody pull up, start shooting, and you protect her and you shoot the dude back, you save her. She's like, oh my God, he saved me and from whatever. He protected me through this life and death situation. If I'm in the car with you, somebody start shooting, and when we get out of that situation, what you do, bro? Right? Logically, I know this ain't on me.
Right.
Right? You didn't save me. You put me in this situation. You ain't the hero. You're the villain. Right? I'm just riding with the villain. Right? And I say a lot of times we think logically. And I'm not saying women aren't logical. I'm not. Just we think more logical than nature based. I think a lot of women think more nature based than logic based, and that's okay because you need that, right? You need that balance because that's why dads are tougher on kids than mom, right? Because we're thinking, okay, if I don't straighten this kid up, he's gonna have problems. He or she's gonna have problems down the road. Whereas mom's like, oh, let me love him, and maybe I can love that away, and you can as long as somebody else is there,
Yeah.
right? To have that balance, if you will.
Yeah, most women aren't weaponized, right?
Right.
So you see a black man and he has muscles, or he's of a certain build, or like me, man, when I'm working, I'm almost never smiling. Just got this, ugh, right?
Right.
But when I'm like when we're hanging out, we crack jokes, we smiling, we laughing, but I'm not like that with everybody
Right.
because it's a defense mechanism. But honestly, I've had it since high school, right? When I was fun, and I shouldn't say fun, but I was smiling and jovial. People saw that as weakness, and then I was getting in fights. So sophomore year, I had to scrape this dude up, and I was like, man, I got to do something different because I can't be fighting
They're
everybody.
trying you too much.
Right.
Right.
And so then that's when I started putting on my defenses, and I got this straight face. And like uh, freshmen or whatever would come in, like, man, he told me you crazy. I said, yeah, they right. Right. Just so you don't.
It's over. Right. All problems are done.
Right.
He won't be a problem.
Right. So just leave him alone. Cool. Right. And it worked out for me. And since it worked out so well all those years, I just ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually asked by my boss. He was like, what would you say if people said you were approachable or were unapproachable? I looked at him and I said, I'd have to ask them, have you tried to approach him? He's like, what do you mean? I said, man, I can sit on the side of the road and talk to a complete stranger for an hour. Like, how can somebody who know me say I'm not approachable? Did you actually try to do? Now it's different if you approach me and I'm busy and I don't have time right now to help you or help you navigate whatever you're dealing with. But if you catch me any other time, I'm not gonna blow you off. I'm listening to what you have to say.
That's just being a black man, bro. We intimidate some people not intentionally.
Right.
It's not your fault.
Right.
I remember I was in I was in South Carolina. I was on a business trip, and
you stopped in South Carolina.
Right. Right. That dude was like, I'm just like, man, you're intimidating. I said, why? He said, you're so big. I said, first off, you're bigger than me. You're taller than me. So what's really intimidating? Oh, you're kind of muscular. I said, but why is that? I'm 5'7", 5'8". If y'all don't know me, I'll be, whatever. But I'm 5'7". Dude, you're like 6'4". Right. At the time, I wasn't. I was lean. I was 198 pounds. Dude, you're like 260, 270. There's nothing the only difference is I'm shorter than you, I'm smaller than you, I'm a little darker than you. That's what intimidates you. Get the mental, get that mind. But I know that as a black man.
It's like a self justification, right? I'm that guy intimidates me. So let me tell you that you intimidate me. So should something happen, yeah, I put it out there. I put it out into the universe that this person is intimidated. No, I'm not intimidated. I'm just a person.
I'm just,
I'm just living,
me
existing in this space.
Right. I literally just walked in.
Right.
Like I ain't do anything.
Yeah.
But
every now and then somebody will be like, oh man, you a big dude. No, I'm just me.
Well, there's bigger people, right? And most of the time I've ever heard, oh man, you big, you look scared. Everybody said that to me has been bigger than me. I'm like, that's weird. Like it's strange to me. But it is. We are. You're right. We're defensive. We have to be. Our job, we protect, whether we necessarily want to or not. Right. That's just kind of what's thrown on us. Right. Even I've done it, and right or wrong, I did with my son when he was growing up. Hey, man, protect your sister. I'm watching I'm watching out for everybody. Right. Because this is how I thought. If something happens, my son covers my daughter, my wife covers my son, I cover my wife. Right? I'm the umbrella over the family. Right. My wife is the umbrella over the children. Right. I'm covering everything. Right. And so we just have that protection. At least I do have that protection mindset.
Yeah, we
Right.
have. I mean, we have family plan, right? If we're out of the restaurant, I'm not gonna put out on for everybody.
No,
No,
right, right.
I give my wife the cue. She knows exactly what to do. We've talked about it. Every now and again, I say, "What's the family plan? Remind me. Tell me what's going on." Right? And so, so we have one when we're at restaurants. We have one if we're out at I don't do the mall, but we had at a Walmart as a family, right?
Right. Sad you gotta have it.
And people, somebody start popping off rounds. I'm not in a position where I get to run out the store or hide in a clothing rack.
Right. You gotta do what you gotta do.
But y'all didn't sign up for this, so here's what I need y'all to do, and follow this plan, and then I'll be back, right? Um, Preferably,
Right. Right. If it go my way,
right. Um, but yeah, we're defenders, and we should be.
somebody has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we sit around waiting for other people to do everything, and that's the thing about the I don't need a man and this and that. Like that's a bad movement.
Yeah, it is.
You can't do everything I do. Right? You can come close, but can you perform at the level that I can perform at? On any given topic. Some of those answers are going to be yes, I can outperform you. But
Absolutely.
a lot of those are going to be like no, because our bodies aren't. Yeah, you don't have the same muscular makeup. You don't have the
We're
testosterone.
created for different purposes.
Right? My brain is completely wired completely differently than you. Now, don't get me wrong. Uh, there's some police officers who are females that I either currently work with or have worked with or at least known. Who I'm like, I'll take her with me anywhere.
But that's a different perspective, right? That's not the average
No,
woman, right?
not
That
even
woman
close.
wanted to be in that position, and she took it upon herself to handle the responsibilities associated with that position. But I know, and I know your wife's probably different. When I walk into a restaurant with my wife, she don't know where the door at. Right now, you've probably said because of who you are, right? I know when I go out with you, you know the exits as soon as we walk in, right? And I do that as well. But I don't expect my wife, right? And she doesn't pick up on everything that I'm picking up on,
Right.
right? And then here's where the interracial part becomes a little bit of an issue. We were going to Tennessee. First off, I really let my wife drive because I can't sleep while she drives, and I'm paranoid. I don't like the way she drives. But I said, man, I'm tired because I worked a full day before we left. And I said, okay, I'm gonna let you drive. I'm gonna sleep. Right? I'm sleeping. I wake up. We're not on the highway. We're on some back road. Right? There was a construction. There was a detour. I'm overreacted. I freak out. I'm mad. And I say, listen, I'm a black man. We're in Tennessee. You cannot. And it wasn't it didn't like she didn't care. It just that's something that isn't wired in her in her mind. I said, listen, we're on the back road. I need to be awake. You can drive. I need to be awake and know what's going on around me because if somebody go past and see me in this passenger seat, I don't know what they're thinking, and I don't know they saw me, and I ain't prepared for nothing. So that was an issue for me. But we talked through it. I said, listen, I know you know, but it's something for me. It's on 24/7, right? I'm black first before a father, before a husband, because that helps me protect myself and my family. I have to know my surroundings because I've been in some questionable places. Right, I was in a small town in Georgia with on a business trip, and at the company I work for, this white dude came up to me. He's like, "Hey man, how long are you guys here?" Like, we're leaving today. At the end of the business today was a Friday. He said, "Good. I was going to tell you I needed you guys to." It's me and Moses, right? We're down in Ball Ground, Georgia, right? And it's like 950 people in the city. He said, "Man, they're going to be looking to hurt people like y'all this weekend." And at first, I was a little bit upset at this dude, but I'm like, he's telling me something I need to know,
Right.
right? But had he not told me that, and had we had already planned to be out of there, so it wasn't like we changed the plans. But had he not said that, I would have been riding, not thinking anything out of the norm. I mean, my head's always on the swivel, but that was good information, right? And I told my boss at the time, because obviously before I started the business, done with this town, right? I told him thank you so much. He's like, man, I just wanted to make sure y'all know I don't get down like that, but there's a rally coming of people looking to hurt people like you. And I was like, dang, this was 20. 2018, right? It was recent enough that it's crazy, but that keeps in the back of my mind. I need to know where I am at all times. I like to be, especially when I'm traveling with a white woman in my car, in the South. I need to be fully cognizant of what's going on where I'm at. I need to be on the main road. So that was for me that was a major short term major issue, right? And I was upset because I'm like, you should know this, but really you probably shouldn't,
Yeah, you can't. I mean,
right? It's not something you ever. That was the first time in her life that we'd ever done that. Normally I'm driving anyway, but that was when I think I don't know, it's just different, right? I don't know how to put it into words. It'll never happen again. I can guarantee you. But it's just stuff like that. But we are protectors, right? And that's our role. That's our job, among other things. That's not the only thing. But there's a misconception today that if you provide and protect, you can do anything, right? Like I'm in Facebook group, and it drives me crazy, right? Like I'm in Facebook groups, and these dudes like, if I'm paying all the bills and I'm doing this, I can have sex with any woman I want to. You can until you get married, bro. Like, and I don't care what your relationship is, y'all. You do whatever you do, but to think to yourself, because I'm paying the bills, I can do whatever I want to do is weird to me,
yeah,
right? Because if you find a woman, and it's just my opinion, that's okay with that. As soon as she makes a dude making more money, she's out the door because she's only there for the money, right? But it's a misconception of what marriage is and what relationships is today. When I talk to these single dudes and they have these crazy and women too, right? And I'm more talking about men right now. But when I talk to these single dudes, they're like, "Oh man, it should be this, this, and this." I'm like, "Who do you know is living that way? Where's that work at?" "Oh no, I'm just saying." I'm like, "No, put a name on it." "Oh, I can't put a name." I say, "You can't because it doesn't work." Right? There's dudes telling you how to be a husband who are not husbands. Right? I can't tell you how to be a police officer. I'm not. I can't tell you how to be an NFL player because I'm not. Right? I can tell you what works for me, but I can tell you what doesn't work for anybody, right? In certain aspects. And again, if you're rich, you said your life don't count for you because everything's different,
yeah,
right? If you're making 3, 4, 5 million a year and up, you live a completely. Your reality is everybody else's fantasy, right? And then you also know, like if I had that much money, I would be fearful of everybody around me, right? Because I'd be scared why you around. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't want to meet anybody new because I would be concerned. But for the average person, we just have a misunderstanding of what marriage should be. When I talk to people about marriage, men and women, they list all these things and they never talk about love, respect, honor, cherishing your spouse. And I'm just like, that's crazy to me, right? I tell most of my guys, if we go on a double date, be on your game, bro, because you might get an argument. Because I'm opening the door, I'm pulling out chairs, I'm dropping my wife off,
man.
I'm pulling up. If it's raining, I'm getting wet. She's not.
Right. And that's the model, right? And so back it up just one step, and then step back into that. We talk about all the things we should be doing, and how you go back to the 50-50, 80-20, whatever enumeration you want to put on it. I don't do that, but what I do is the model I follow, not just in my marriage, but just in life in general, is I make it my business to fill someone else's cup. And all I'm saying is, all right, I've got this excess, right? And I put a little bit in my cup, make sure I have something, because if I'm running on, if I got nothing, then I'm running on fumes and I can't do nothing for nobody else. I got enough to make sure I'm good, but then I put everything else I have in somebody's cup. So then when they go to fill their own cup, they go, man, it's overflowing already. So I got to put this somewhere. And then they're going to look to find somewhere to put it. And it's going to end up being in my cup. Right? And that's how our marriage works. But what do you need? How can I help you? How can I be a benefit to you? Right? And there are sometimes you have to be selfish. It's just based on the day and
Right,
whatever's
right.
going on. But like today, my daughter had a track meet. I wanted to make sure that one of us was there at the start of the track meet. So what do you need me to do? How can I help? Well, all I got right now is this, and I can't rush that process. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead, right, and set it up, yada yada. Fill her cup so that she doesn't have to do it. It's already full to the brim, and there's nothing for her to do. And if she has some excess, something she needs to fill up, she's gonna see that my cup is not full. So, well, if mine is full, might as well go put it in his, right? And not just in marriage, but in relationships and friendships, right? Hey, man, are you good? You look like you know. Can I help you with fill a void? I'm not gonna be your personal ATM, But
Right, but I feel what you're saying.
right, but is there any way that I know life is coming at you right now? Is there something I can do? How can I help you out? We've had these conversations,
Absolutely, absolutely. I can
and
attest to that. Absolutely.
we. I mean, you're one of the people who I can call, say, "Hey, bro, you got $1,000 I can borrow till Friday." You're gonna ask some questions, right?
You have to. Right. Like,
But if at the end of that conversation, if you have it and you see that I need it, it's done.
done
Right?
deal.
Same way. That knife cuts both ways. You can't do that with everybody,
Absolutely cannot.
and it's about knowing their character, know who they are, right? And so,
Man, you so okay.
right, and so you go back on that, and it's just crazy because we don't have that much anymore. We go back and forth, and everyone is dog eat dog and take care of self. We're not taking care of each other, and that's the problem. We're so much in defense mode. We want to play defense the entire time. You know, we have to play offense. Let's do something
For somebody else.
proactive,
Absolutely.
and it will come back to you if that's who you are genuinely.
Right.
Unlike
Even if it doesn't, you did your part.
right,
Right. I try not to. I don't want to be tit for tat. Right. I'm gonna do something because I can do it. And I want to do it. And I want to help you out. Whatever it is.
no quid pro quo.
Right. I'm doing it. I don't have any expectations in return. I appreciate whatever comes back my way.
Sure.
Right. And I said earlier, there's rooms in my house I haven't cleaned, and it's true. I wake up some mornings and I don't clean nearly as good as my wife. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not. I'm nowhere near. I think she's partially OCD when it comes to cleaning, but a lot of more. So I'm gonna take a step back. When my kids moved out, we started working more from home together, and I really got to look for the first time in my life at what a wife does all day long. It's a lot of stuff going on that the wife does, right?
COVID exposes all.
It does, right? And I was blessed to have an amazing wife because I don't have a problem spending time with my wife. A lot of people didn't make it. Like, bro, I'm not gonna sit there and play with you. We spend a good 16 hours a day together awake, right? Because when we work at the house or at the office together, right? We go out together. We do everything, and I love it. But anyway, so when I started to realize when the kids started moving out, just me being home more, looking at everything, I'm like, man, she's busy all day. She does a lot. So I'll get up in the mornings because I'm a morning person. I'll get up 4:30, 5:30, doesn't matter to me. So I'll get up and I'll clean the kitchen, I'll clean the living room. The things that I know is the first thing she's gonna do in the morning. Right, first thing in the morning, and most of the time I make the mess, but and that's being real, right? I realize I make the mess. I can't blame the kids, and she cleans up after herself. So I'm really, I'm at fault here. But I'll get up, I'll clean the kitchen, clean the living room, do all that kind of stuff because I know it makes her day better, right? I know if I don't do it, she'll do it, but that's not the point, right? And I don't do it so she'd be like, oh, let me give him. He did this, let me do this, right? It's not that point. It's just to offer her
Right, free her
a
up.
break,
Right, free her up. Like why do you have to do it all?
right? You
And
know what I'm
so
saying?
stepping back to that part we were talking about, how we have to step your game up if you go on a date with us. Like that's how my house is, right? And so I'm raising a young man who I expect to be chivalrous, and I need to emulate the behavior that I expect him to perform. And so my wife and my two daughters, they don't get to open doors, right? If we're leaving the house, coming in the house, getting in the car, going in a restaurant, store, whatever the case may be, if my son or I are with them, you sit tight. We got this, right? And my son don't play around with it. He takes it serious.
It's serious business.
He get mad, like, Dad said I have to open your door, right? And so my wife will open the door, and he'll go, Mom. She'll close the door and she'll wait. And then my middle child, my youngest daughter, she don't play. Like, she'll walk up to the door of the restaurant and she'll cross her arms and she's just waiting. Somebody gonna open this door. And they open the door and then she go in. And I'm doing a couple different things. One, I'm teaching my son discipline, right? And I'm teaching him how he is to treat women, right? He's not driving yet, but I expect him to take his date. If it's raining, drop her off at the door. Like my wife, she would prefer to walk with me because she don't want to stand at the door by herself, and I respect that to some degree, right? But as a protector,
Right.
if I were a chump, she'd be like, "Man, you can just drop me off. I'm better off being able to duck in."
Right.
Um, but then I'm also teaching my daughters that this is the expectation. This is what they should expect. I tell when I'm talking about SAG and talking to these young men, talking about different gestures and things like that they should be doing. One of our gestures where you talk about shaking someone's hand when you meet them, firm handshake, look them in the eye,
Yeah,
tell them
yeah,
what your
yeah.
name is, opening door for women, holding door for people, regardless if they're women or men. You know, if
It's just respect.
if you're within 6 feet of me, I'm holding the door for you.
Right.
I might even let you in first, depending on what's going on. But at a minimum, I'm going to hold it so the door doesn't slam in your face.
Right.
And then talk about holding an umbrella for women. I'm going to get wet while you stay dry.
This is normal, right?
Right. And so, but they're not raised off that. They have no idea what that looks like, and they're especially with the umbrella, they get really confused. They're like, how am I gonna get through this door, and I got to do what? Like, yeah, man, you probably gonna get half your body probably gonna get wet if your umbrella's small enough, but she bone dry. You done your job,
right?
And so, those, and I'm teaching my daughters that is the expectation. That is what you should expect. And I tell them, I said, they know that any young man that wants to date you is dating all of us. I'm all up in this business.
Right. I ain't mad at you. I'm with you.
Ain't no secrets here. Right. You come in here, and if any of them think that they can come to the house and sit in the driveway or honk the horn and
not happening,
send a text, you might as well keep on moving, player.
Right. Ain't nobody coming out with me.
Nope. Right. Exactly. Hey, what's up, man? All right, man. Well, you can go ahead and have a nice night. Good seeing you. Can I? No. You didn't have the decency to come in and look us in the face, say hello, shake a hand. I don't know if you're drunk. Are you high? I need to see you.
Right. I don't know who you are if you don't come in.
Well, even if he's a known, especially if he's a known, what's expected. I expect you to come in here.
Right.
Come knock on the door. How you doing, Mr. and Mrs.? Is your daughter home? Yeah, man. She's upstairs. She's probably still getting ready. Go and have a seat. How you doing? You smell like weed. You smell like alcohol. Like those are things that I'm looking for.
Right.
But I also want to know how you are. What's the update? I haven't seen you in a week or two. Right. You here for all of us.
Right. It's family, bro.
Right. Now, I know what your objective is.
Right.
We are all
right.
So you don't get to just come in and just single one of us out. We all in here for it. Right. And if I'm an impeccable judge, people, and if I get a bad feeling, I told my daughter not too long ago. I said, "Man, look, I really don't want to get in the business of picking your friends or saying who you can or can I hang out with. But that does not mean I will not.
Right. So, I prefer
right
not to.
So, and being 15, that's hard, right? She's trying to figure out which crowd she belongs in, which I don't subscribe to in the first place.
We're not normal, right? I mean, be real, like I'm
a police officer, so I got complete type A personality. Like I like to be in charge, like to be controlling my stuff, but I'm also a nerd. Like coming in and watching you set up the studio, I'm sitting there taking it all in. And, I love that stuff. I love musicals, right? As you probably, but no one on this podcast has heard me cuss in the 1 hour and 48 minutes we've been running.
I had to question you if I hear you cuss.
One time.
I think I got it one time.
No.
No, it was one. Don't do it.
What?
Now I'm hearing you lie too. But I don't remember what the word was. But I remember it was a word.
No. I remember you misheard, right?
I heard what I heard.
But now if I am repeating something verbatim,
that's different,
right? Or there's been in 17 years as a police officer, I can tell you the 2 times I've cussed while working, and one of them had a gun pointed at a dude's head, right? And he just was not translating. He wanted to argue with me, like, bro, I'm really not arguing with you right now. And so then I had to put it into his terms, and he was like, oh, lay it flat out. Like, bro, why do I have to cuss you out? I mean, the gun's already pointing in your face. I don't know what more motivation there could be.
The words shouldn't matter.
Right. So, but like you said, we build different, and I personally don't feel like profanity enhances my language, so I don't use it. Right. I don't necessarily knock it. I just don't practice.
I cuss a lot, but I respect you.
Right. You've had one today while we're here.
Right. And
that's more than you usually have.
Right.
So
my wife asked me, she said, how Swanee don't be? I said, nah, I know who he is. I respect his lifestyle. Right. I said, when I'm talking to Swanee, I'm slower than I normally am. I put thought into the way I'm gonna phrase the sentence to respect that. Not that you're gonna trip if I do it.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, you live a lifestyle a certain way. I'm gonna respect that. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't make me. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make things worse. It takes me a little work, right? But I intentionally think through a little bit more. Okay, I got Swan with me. Sure. Let me respect his dedicate, because you don't do it.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, how what kind of a demonstration of love is that, right?
It's
So
real.
where you can look at somebody and go, I know this isn't how he gets down. This is how she gets down. So I this is what I would normally do because I have so much love and respect for this person. I'm going
I'm gonna
to
make the adjustment.
I'm gonna make the adjustment while I'm with them as a way to honor them. Right
It,
now, if you were no good, it wouldn't even matter.
right.
I'm gonna do what I do.
For me, the impact that it has on me to make the change isn't, I think, as big as the impact it has on you if I didn't. Right? Because you don't use certain things, right? Certain words, you don't use them around people. It ain't like I'm disrespecting anybody. It's just the terms I choose.
Mhm.
But I respect your lifestyle and how you live. But Mari's like, how did you up there? Y'all don't need, so I don't ever say nothing about it. I said, no, I talk slow. Right? I slow it down. I think a little more before I speak to make sure I replace those words.
Right. And then if it happens, it is immediately followed by pardon my language.
My bad. Right? Yeah, my bad. I slipped up. Right? And it's not anything other than respect.
Right.
Right? I
Just
respect the
appreciate
way you live your life.
Appreciate it.
So people, but I don't know, man. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened today. Like today is today's people are different. I mean, I know it's a breakdown in the family, right? And we have a shortage of black men. Let's just keep it real, right? Whether it be prison, death, married, married outside of black race, black women are outnumbered out the gate, right? Just purely no. Let's take everything else off the table. There's more black women than there are black men, right? And then we take away marriage and prison and everything else, that number further dwindles. And then so it's tough out here because the choosing who they have to choose from isn't necessarily the best, right? And I say this all the time: if you are 35 years old and a single man, that might be a red flag. But you got options. Like you have options. There's more of them than there are of us. So if you don't want to be, if you want to be single, you straight. But if you want to be single, you're probably not in the market to be considered one of the ones that is a red flag because you're not looking. But for the guys who are looking, you're 35 and older, and he's like, "Man, no good women out here." I'm like, "Man, what's wrong, bro? Like you should. That's not a difficult task. Now, you can't. If you're walking around Walmart looking for Gucci, you got to change your environment.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know, man. It's just different. You know why? I don't know what happened. Like I don't know.
And like you, I've been out the game for a nice hot minute. Not looking, not look. I don't have any stocks in that stock market, so
Nothing invested in that.
right. But I am trying to do my part. And so when I'm talking to the parents of these young men that I mentor, when I go to the schools or I'm talking about the program and they're trying to figure out if they should allow their son to be a part of it, I tell them, I said, I want to make these young men successful in life. And the characteristics that I'm trying to teach them today will make them successful today. They will also carry them into their adulthood if
Mhm.
they honor the characteristics and remember what I'm telling them. And then I said, I want to make them respectful. I will make them employable. And
That
maybe,
matters.
maybe just maybe, make them marriage material for your daughter, right? And so when I say that, the moms were like, sign him up, right? Right, I want, because then once he knows what his worth is and he knows what his value is, hopefully he won't settle for anything lower than that. He wants that energy match, right? And if you're talking 50-50 in that regard, then I can fool with you, right?
Right.
We're vibing,
Right.
And so um, I'm not I'm not going to. You'll struggle to find someone living in a mansion and who's going to marry or get into a relationship with someone on Section 8 housing. Right? Just those are
Right.
two
They're
different.
not even in the same place.
Right.
We miss each other in life, right? Because we're typically not in same circles.
I mean, maybe he or she might trick off, but it's not designed to be long term.
No. Right.
And so you and I are both getting something out of this, and that's all this really
That's
is.
an exchange.
Right.
Right.
And so, but when you get somebody on your level, right, which is why we love our wives the way we do, because we get a lot out of our marriages, and almost none of it has anything to do with physical intimacy or anything like that.
Right. It's the extra outside of that.
Right. It's the heart. It's the support. It's the love and honestly the accountability that our partners offer us.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
the fact that we have physical connections with our wives independently,
It's a plus.
man, you
A big plus.
and you can still have an amazing marriage without that. you know, you're gonna have to get creative, but
It's doable.
right,
It's
but
doable.
you can get. I mean, the ball's on the 1 yard line, right? And so can you punch it in? So and then
I was
there's
trying to
ways.
get I see what you did there.
but but no, and it just but we want everything quick, fast, and in a hurry. We want it
Instant
to be
gratification.
right, and we want it to be packaged with a bow and ready to go. And this stuff takes work, right?
Do every day.
We got we funny story. We met in 2004, and I gave her my number, and we didn't talk for a year. She didn't call me, so I was in that point in my life. I said, "All right, I'm gonna give the girl my number, and if she into
Right.
me, she gonna call me." And then, fortunately, we met through a mutual friend. A year later, I'm like, "Hey, why your girl ain't call me?"
Right. It's the same number.
Right. So we made that connection, man. It was 100 mile an hour out the gate, right? And so we've been together. We were together since 2005. Got married in 2008. So we're together 3 years, right? No, no 15-year dating, 8-year engagement.
Right. Right. Like we can get married now before one of us kill over.
Right. But we in it for the long haul, right? It's to death do us part, right? And I mean, I'm worth more to her dead than I am alive.
Man, you know what? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, I was talking to my boy. He's like, well, man, these women are marrying dudes just to get a divorce. First off, let me just say the average man makes $70,000 or less. Nobody's marrying you to get half, right? And it's not a knock on anybody. But I said, if you truly understand the value of a man, he's worth more as a dead husband than a divorced husband,
Man.
right? Like, you're supposed to make sure your family's straight for years if something happens to you. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and if she asks you to steady increase your life insurance, you might worry. But most of us or as husbands, are worth more dead than alive. Because dead, you get it all, both ends. Whatever you saved up, all the property, all the assets, plus life insurance.
Checks in bulk.
Man, right? All the money's hers. So, it's interesting, but I don't know, man. It's just a different world. Like my boy, I was talking to one of my boys. He's like, "Oh man, I ain't chasing no girl, bro." My girl told me no twice. The third time, because I was like, "I want to date this person. Right? I'm gonna give her three and I'm out. Three strikes, I'm out." Right? So the first couple times, nah, I'm not interested. It wasn't. I'm not interested, but it was a no. So I asked again, and then the third time, I'm like, "Listen, this is my last shot. I want to hang out with you. Let's try it." And then 31 plus years later, here we are. And I'm like, man, a lot of times, and this is just my personal belief, women they have to put up a brick wall, right? Because from the time they got bumps on their chest, every boy in the neighborhood was trying, right? I call it a paper brick wall, right? It's the visual. I don't want to deal with you,
Are you willing to climb this wall?
right? And it's okay because we mad now because women don't require a lot of effort, right? They don't require a lot of effort. For a lot of women, you meet. I was talking to my boy earlier today. He's like, man, met a chick, hung out. He's like, I'm trying to get to know her. She throwing everything at me. He's like, man, that's weird because old me would have jumped right in there. He said, but I'm looking for something different. So I told her, I'm cool. I don't want to move that fast. And I was like, bro, you said what? Because you fast, right? No, you single. But I'm like, you move fast.
I've been there, right? I was the same dude, right? And so years 18 to 20, I was a different person,
Yeah.
right? And so I finally got to a point. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know what I don't want or don't need when I see it. And then so I started turning stuff away. And like same situation where I went to, I can't remember the name, the locker room or whatever it was over there in Elkhart, and there was this chick there, and she was standing next to her dude, and my guy introduced us to him, to her, and then I got a piece of paper in my hand, and I shake her hand, and then I put it in my pocket, I play it off, and I get to my table, and I'm like, this chick gave me her phone number,
What can you do?
shoulder to shoulder with her.
What
dude.
can you do with her? Well, don't answer that.
So
but I understand it ain't long term.
Right. So I called her next day, and I'm like, oh man, but you got to find out.
Right. I
So
wasn't ready for that one. I wasn't
called her
ready.
next day, and I'm like, what's going on? She's like, oh, I thought you were cute, yada yada yada. I said, so what is this? What do you? And so, oh well, I don't want to leave him. He treats me really well. I just maybe we can have some fun on the side. I said, man, a year ago this would have been a different conversation. I said, but I'm at the point in my life where I can't be. I'm not side chick wasn't a term at that point, but I can't be somebody's side chick. I'm looking for something long term for me, and um, I'm just not willing to put me or you in a position to
Right.
where I'm just just filling a void, right? Having fun.
I mean, that's risky too, because you know, dudes is I mean, it's not worth the risk,
Right. Not at all. Right. Because it definitely can be worth the risk if you come to my house or
man.
push up my wife. Right.
Right, right.
So I'm a very level headed, logical thinker. But
But
I've
there's
never,
certain lines you don't cross.
right. I've never had anybody, I shouldn't say that. I've never had a reason to come at somebody like that because of my wife. Um, a wise man would know, leave that one alone. Um, and and I say I'll do anything for her, I'm afraid that that's an open ended statement,
Right,
and
right,
I don't ever want to find out how far that goes.
right.
Um, so understand that when that ring is on that finger, or you know, she gonna tell you she married. I ain't concerned about that at all.
Right.
And if you tell her she attractive or whatever, I'm secure enough.
When
You're
she
right.
say stop,
You absolutely right.
you better leave it alone.
Right, but once she go ahead and put up that wall, understand that that's a wrap.
Now where I step in.
Right. So I'll even stand behind your shoulder, just listening to the conversation, see how it go. But once she shut you down, right, and that's how we met. We were at the landing, and we she came in with a mutual friend of ours, and we did introductions, and they went off to their thing, and then 1 o'clock, whatever, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, I look over, and she's legit surrounded by a bunch of Mexicans. She just looked over at me, and she had her eyes said, just screamed, "Help me!" And so I walked right over, put my hand right in the middle of the circle, and I said, "You want to dance?" And then we just danced the night away to finish the night. Um, it was funny because at the end of the night, the last song, one of the dudes was like, "You didn't want to dance. You could have just said so," and stormed out, stormed out the landing. And so we laughed about it, finished out the last song. Yeah, then I didn't talk to her for another year, so that was interesting. But but
It worked out.
a year later, man, come to find out, it was a year that we both needed. That was my gap year where I was figuring out, you know, I'm doing too much, and I'm never going to even find any semblance of happiness
Hanging with Super Dave.
doing what. Speaking of people chained up in the basement, I'm never going to find happiness doing these things and being this person. And so I had to
Right, right,
take an opportunity to really decide and define who I was. At the same time, I found religion. You know what I mean? So I had
right.
a lot going on and a lot of soul searching, and kind of find out she did too. And so it needed to happen that way. And God placed us together in that timing, perfectly. And so when we finally came back, I mean, she wasn't too long, had finally gotten over or dealt with whatever her stuff was at the time. And so the timing was just ideal to where we actually could focus on one another and give each other 100% commitment to each other. There's never been any outside interference. I've never had to decide, do I want to be with her or someone else?
Right,
I've
right.
got to make a decision. No, I'm all yours. Like I wasn't even talking to anybody. I've never entertained anyone else while we're together, right? And there's no field to play. Like this is the
This is
field.
it. Right, this is it.
It's
This is where I'm at.
home court advantage. That's it.
It's hard, I will say it is hard to get a good woman today based on what I'm hearing people say. Probably hard to get a good man too, but women ain't complaining to me about a lack of good men. I want to hear it, right? But I think it is difficult. But a part of that is the rules today are different, right? I was talking with a friend of mine, and he's like, "Man, these girls are doing this and this with all these dudes." I said, "But it's hard. They kind of got to. If you want to compete, right? In the market today, there are dudes who are like, if she ain't giving me this by date 3, I'm done with her." I'm like, bro, we had to put a lot of work in, right? And then so these girls that don't want to do that never get past date 2 or 3, right? To a point where some of them are like, man, I'm just trying, right? They're giving in on things they don't want to do necessarily, to try to get something to go, and it's crazy.
It sounds like rape.
It does, right? But I don't mean it like that, right? I want to clarify. They're going earlier than they probably would have liked to,
Right.
right? To try and extend the relationship, and
Which is crazy because they are in the driver's seat. Like,
it is.
and you've said it on just about every episode that I've watched, but I as in men, will only do what you allow me to
We're
do.
safe auto.
The moment
We're the bare minimum to get a woman.
right? And once you establish that this is the field of operation, these are our operating agreement. If I want to stay in this game, I'm going to operate within these boundaries.
See, but I think that goes back to the logic versus nature, right? Logically, it makes sense to that, but naturally, they want a man, and a lot of these women are making it more difficult because they're like, "Hey, dude, I'm putting out on the first hello, not the first date. We ain't got to go nowhere, right?" And so I think it's I want to say forced, but I don't mean that like that. I think they're forced to compete because if they don't get no action. The problem is they're looking at the wrong dude, right? And that's a whole different. That's the next episode, right? That's a whole different deal. But they're looking at the wrong dudes, and to do with these guys, to get one of these guys, you got to do what the other girls around them are doing, and it don't work anyway.
Right.
You end up with a baby and he's nowhere to be found.
And a boy, right? You're not actually entertaining men because a man won't make you compete for his affection.
Not at all.
If he wants you, he knows early.
Mhm.
Man, there's something about her. And I, it was probably 2 weeks. I knew I wanted to tell her I love her. I knew that would be crazy.
Too early,
Right.
but you ready.
Right. So
You ready.
I mean, like I said, we met when T9 texted. She had a Motorola Razor. I had a Nextel.
There's some people don't know what that is, man.
I think I had Nextel. What a i870, I think it was, right? And so we
tears.
so we texting nonstop because texting was free, but I was against texting forever. I'm like, this is stupid. Why? This is never going to last.
Man.
And now no one
Sound like
survive.
Blockbuster. The whole internet movie thing ain't going nowhere.
So, but I mean, we legit got to know each other intimately because we talked. Nothing was off limits. Everything we talked about, text message, and then by voice after 9 o'clock. And
Free nights and weekends for y'all that don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'm 40 plus, so I said Nextel, and they're like, "What?
Right, who's that?"
Chirp. And so I knew her intimately, and so I won't say everything about her because I'm still learning things about her, even 17 years, or not 17, married, 17 together.
Together, right,
15 years married this year. I'm still learning things about her as we go along, but I knew her. Like I didn't have any burning questions, and if I did, I could just ask the question and get a straight answer. Right? No run around, no this and that. I believe in transparency. I want you to have all the information available so you can make the most informed decision possible.
That's it.
Right? And if after I put it all out there, because I mean, like anybody else, we all got to pass. I got to pass, and so hey, have I ever told you about? No. All right. Well, let me tell you about this. Boom.
Right. Now you got the info. It's up to you what you do with it.
Right. And so she thought enough of it to stick around because most of it was expired. Right. It's old stuff. Nothing active. Nothing psychoactive. I'm not expecting anybody to come. No Maury
delivery.
Right. No Maury.
We got a delivery.
Maury
This delivery got a name on it.
No Maury Povich coming up at the house ding dong with the cameraman running behind me.
Right.
If I had a kid out there by now that wasn't hers, I surely should know about it. Now, I'm not hard to find, right? I don't operate any pseudonyms on social media. My name is my name.
Right.
I'm not hard to hide. I'm not hard to find. I'm not running for nobody.
Right.
So there's no concern there. But it's just different, right? And we did the mental emotional connection before we did the physical connection, and it's a lot of struggle for a lot of people. I mean, like I said, we started talking. It was around probably middle October, I think it was, when we started talking because I know it was Boo Fest or whatever it is at Six Flags. That was our first date. Like I went towards, well, technically our second date, but I went up to her, a month, 3 weeks after started talking, like from the initial when we started talking on the phone.
A year and 3 weeks.
Right. Then I went to go visit her, and she's a teacher, so she was in charge of this play at the middle school where she worked at. We went there, then we went to Applebee's, and that was our date. But her friend was there, so it wasn't really a date. It was almost like, that's the first time I'm meeting this dude outside of the first time I met him a year ago,
Right.
a year and 3
I've
weeks
known him a
ago.
year, but I only know him for a couple weeks.
Right. Why don't you come to dinner with us? Okay, cool, no problem. I ain't got no issue with that. But then the next day, I was supposed to go home, and they're like, "Well, we going to Six Flags tomorrow. If you won't, you can come along." And I was like, "All right, well, bet." So I stayed, and that was our first, real date. But we had 3 weeks to a month on the phone, no FaceTime,
Right,
no.
none of that. That didn't exist.
Right. If we sent a cell phone picture, it was grainy. You couldn't see
No,
it
I had,
anyway.
oh man, that was kind of phone you.
Motorola Razr Nextel
Ah,
i7.
yeah, okay, he was in there,
The 1.5 by 1.5 screen
man.
pixelated.
Right, that 2-bit pictures.
Right, right. So, but anymore, man, it's physical first, right?
It
Hey,
is absolutely.
what's your name? Um,
Let me
uh,
swipe. Right, I don't even like the way you look.
oh my gosh, yeah. Where we gonna meet? Right? Uh, having sex in the back of cars. Like I can't even bring
It's
you to my
crazy.
crib. Like what?
So hold on, because I think I've been wrong about something until my guy was on the other night. Because I'm like, I got female friends that are telling us, "Oh, these dudes don't have houses." My guy was like, "We got houses, we just don't want to bring them." Right? Because then when we're done with them, and I'm like, that's kind of crazy too. Like you physically have sex with a chick that you don't want to know where you live. Right? That's crazy to me.
Right. So then what's the point? What's the
The,
end? What's the end goal?
and that's the pride. The end goal is exactly what it was.
Strike and move on.
So
Right.
I can move on.
And so why?
Or be
Now
upfront,
I've been
at
right.
least.
Yeah.
Because
I've been there. Don't get me wrong. I've been there. I've said, like I said, 18 to 20, whole different person.
right.
And it took some soul searching where I wasn't alone, but I was lonely. And then finally, I was like, man, this ain't no way to be. I can't do this long term. This
Man, I don't
this
know
is not
how
sustainable.
I don't know how anybody can be single. Like for real, I know that sounds weird, but I've been in a relationship. Like I wouldn't know. Y'all be tired of me because I be at everybody's house, knocking on the door. What y'all doing today? Like, bro, you're not 12. You can't come over Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. I need that love and affection from my woman.
Right. Yeah, I saw your bike outside, so I stopped through.
Man, that's it. Right? I knew you were home. Right? I saw your car out front. Well, I live here, fam. But I need that. Like I say I need. I really need. I'm not gonna sit there and lie. Love feels great to me.
It's a basic human requirement.
Right? I'm not when I hear dudes like, "Oh, I don't need a woman," I'm like, bro, we live different. Because I don't want to be around a bunch of hard angles my whole life, right? I want to be around my boys forever. Right? Like that, it's weird to me. I want to work towards something with somebody. I want to be able to share the fruits of our labor. And I'm not just talking the financial, right? Um, you know, something great happens. I want to be able to share that, right? Unfortunately, my wife has been there through both the loss of my father and my mother. Right? I say unfortunately because I had to lose them.
Sure.
But man, if it wasn't for her, I don't know where I'd be right now.
And no one besides her will ever understand where you were when that happened. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's a connection that's irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
I mean, God forbid something happened to her and she passed on. Right? If you met somebody else, like you couldn't even it almost pointless you talking about your mom and your dad with them because
right. It's
they never met them and so they don't understand.
man.
Right? And it's just crazy. And I didn't come from it, like I talked about earlier. I didn't come from a 2-person or 2-parent household. Like it didn't exist for me.
Right, right.
And so, but as like I said, I'm a very observant person. As I'm watching the struggles of our society and Black men in particular, and seeing the common denominator that the men in the home engaged in healthy relationship is the difference maker. It's the quantum force multiplier. And the people who are most troubled oftentimes are those who have either absent father who's not in the home or father who's in the home and ain't doing that.
Right. He better off not being in the home.
Just present. Right.
Right.
You're present. Don't get me wrong. Presence is important. Right.
But the characteristics behind that matter.
Right. I was going through my memories, and this time last year, my daughter did track, and so I showed up, and uh, she did her jumps and her running events, and then once she realized that she had PR in on 2 of her 3 events, dude, she came over to me and she ran me like she about knocked me to the ground, right? And she was just so elated and was wanting to share that with
Absolutely.
me, right?
Right.
She hadn't hugged me like that since she was knee high to grasshopper.
It's different when they're excited. They want to share that with dad.
Right. And so I'm not a stranger to her.
Right.
Right. And I work at my daughter's school 4 days a month, once a week, and I can still to this day go. When at lunch she sees me, she just did it last week or this week. She just did it this week. She sees me, she comes over and she gives me a hug, and I kiss her on the forehead. Right, as a 15-year-old in high school, dad can still hug on her and love on her.
That's a whole lot of kids need that and want that. They not like that's a good thing to have.
Right. She will run across the building or the gym or the room to come seek me out. Right. And I don't take that for granted because I know at one day
It's gonna stop.
1 week is here, and next week is gone. And so while we're here, man, I'm gonna live that up. Right. And that's why I'm here so late. She had to track me today.
Yeah.
Hey bro, I ain't going nowhere until I go to track me.
I ain't mad at you.
And so she PR'd again today. So her long jump is higher. And she had me there to share with, and she didn't even realize it. She's like, oh, she was so mad. Like, I was so close. I said, what are you talking about? She's like, I was, 13 and a half. My PR I was this close to my PR. Or no, she was 13. Her PR was 13 and a half. And she said, I got 13 and a quarter. I was this close to my PR. I was like, no, you had 13 and 3/4. You were a quarter over your PR, which was actually just from 2 days ago. So, and she was like, "Oh," and so she got excited and get to share those moments, right? And those are moments. That moment is irreplaceable. Can't get it back.
Can't do it back. I did a lot of travel all over the world, but one thing I always told my boss, my company, I'm not missing the event, right? Obviously I miss some after school activities, things like that, trying to build a certain life for the kids, but birthdays, holidays, major sporting events, championship, I'm not missing that,
Right.
Because I can't get that back, right? But having a father in the home or in the kid's life, I don't even say in the home, right? Because every relationship isn't gonna work. That's just life. But having access to that father and having that father in those kids' life, and I'm not advocating for split homes by any means,
Sure.
right? I prefer people live together, and it's not my decision, but nothing stops you from being an active father. There are some women and that are going to be, oh, we broke up, you can't see the kids unless you pay, blah blah blah, right? But I think that's the minority. I don't think that's the majority of people who are in different homes.
And
Right.
I agree. I think it is the minority. You know, if a mother or even father believes that child support is a contribution, it's in a bad way already, right?
Right.
Your time and your energy are worth far more than any deduction that can be taken out of your paycheck.
We got to provide a home,
Sure.
right? But that's not it, right? I've had this discussion. Oh man, I got to pay child. You don't know what it's like. I said, bro, if all I had to pay was child support, you'd be riding with me on my personal jet right now talking about it, right? Um, it's. I look at child support like minimum wage, right? They just say you got to do something, right? And I know it's different for different people. Some people pay a lot, but if you are in a relationship and you go separate ways, and you can co-parent properly, there shouldn't be a discussion about child support.
There's a family here in town that I know. I grew up. Well, I didn't grow up with them per se. We became friends probably my junior, maybe senior year in high school. And it's a big family, and they're both remarried. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children amongst themselves, and then they all got married and had more kids. And but these two families come together, and there's no issue.
That's how it should be.
It's just crazy to watch it, right? And um, they celebrate weddings and births, and grandchildren and great grandchildren, all in the same breath, and there's no issue whatsoever. So no, it doesn't have. I mean, not all relationships work out. Those the initial family structure grew apart, and they both found somebody that makes them happy, and they continue to be happy, and they celebrate, and they're on each other's Facebook and commenting on all the
And there's
things.
nothing wrong with that. That's normal. I mean, y'all should be friends, right? Y'all should be friends to a certain extent, right? I mean, y'all have kids together. If you can't get along, that's going to reflect on the children.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, it's crazy how we put term limits on
mhm.
relationships. Only under these circumstances it's going to work. And I mean, honestly, relationships, the goal should be lifelong relations. Like, I was telling young people, uh, there was a young dude at high school the other day who was having issues. That he was like, it just sucks when you only have one person who truly cares about you. And I was like,
Better
I
than
was like, I
zero.
was like, actually, that's a really good thing.
Right, that's a great number.
I was like, somebody who actually cares about you, like, dude, that's a unicorn, right? Especially at
Right,
your age.
that's a great number.
I told him, I said, if you had 5 people right now who are your best friends, I said, leave high school for 5 years, you're gonna be in contact with, not ain't even close. You're gonna be in contact with one, maybe two of those. I
At
promise you.
most.
And then you add 5 more years from that,
Now you don't talk.
you might still have one to hold on to. And I told him, I think I still have one person from high school I still communicate with. Maybe not regularly, but still communicate. So, um, you know, the relationships require work. Friendships, parental
Everything. You got to
relationships,
put time in.
romantic relationships, they're like the stock market. You have to invest. If you don't invest, you will get no equity out of it.
No return.
If you want to just sit here and just expect it to get return on investment, you ain't investing nothing. So there is no return on
Right,
investment.
right. You getting out what you put
Right.
in.
And so, in with us and our children and our significant others, we just expect it to work. We want to do the safe auto minimums and expect it to work. And it just doesn't fly that way.
Yeah, I mean that's not life, right? It's. I mean, it's just not life. That's what it is. It's difficult for people to understand. I don't know, man. Like there's so much wrong today, right? When I look, I'm just like everything. It's just like everything's wrong, right? I'm looking out, I'm like there's people having, and again, I ain't knocking nobody, right? But I'm seeing people who want kids but don't want a wife or don't want a husband. And I'm like, cool, I understand that's cool. Not everybody's supposed to be married. But what exactly are you going to teach your children, right? To say, hey, listen, let's get married. Don't get married because it's not cool. Or are you going to say get married? I feel like I know where you're about to go, but I'm gonna let you go. You like you got something to say. Oh, but it's I don't understand, right? My boy is saying, I'll never get married. You have a daughter. So you can tell her never get married. No, I'm gonna teach her to be a good wife. I said, well, what's the value of her being a wife in your opinion if you don't value women as wives?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
like that's crazy.
Yeah. No, man. And we have similar startups to our marriages. And my wife had our first child. We weren't married. We did it out of the order either one of us would have preferred, but here we are.
Right?
And so I forget how many years ago it was, but we were talking and uh, we were at a restaurant with her parents and us and her siblings, and so we were all there. I can't remember exactly how it went down, and I said something about being married and being married first. And my daughter, she looked, she said, "Well, you and mom were married when you had me." And the math is easy to do, right?
I hate that conversation, bro. I hate that math conversation. But you're right.
We've been she's 15, we've been married 14 years. So math ain't hard,
Yeah,
right?
I'm with you.
And so she finally figured it out, and I didn't realize she figured it out. I mean, it wasn't a secret, just I wasn't
Right.
on
We didn't put it on the
intentionally,
chalkboard.
right? And so she turned over and she said, "Well, you and mom wasn't married when you had me." And I said, "You're right, but our goal is to teach you, um, so that you don't have to learn from our mistakes and do it the way we did. We want you to do it a better way." And I said, "Oh, by the way, you get one of those and you just use it."
Right. You can't throw this at me no more.
Right. That's it.
It hasn't. The kid, I know my son knows, right? Because the math doesn't math, right? We're this year will be our 26th year of marriage. Our son is 28. Math just don't math, right? Um, but you're right. You want your kids to do better, right? You want your kids to have the family from the start. My daughter has a boyfriend, right? We talk all, and I love this little dude, right? He's super cool. And I'm gonna be honest, I thought I was gonna be the dad, like, oh, I don't like this. I love this little dude. He'll call me, hey, Mr. Brevard, man, I'm gonna go out with some of my boys. You wanna come out with us? hell yeah, I don't, but I'm going, right? Or he'll call me, hey man, can some of my buddies are, we wanted to go out and play pool. It's okay, we come over there and play with you. Oh, absolutely, right? I love this little guy. We have this conversation all the time, and I'm like, hey, listen, if y'all ever want to have kids, that's cool. Let's talk about it after the wedding. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like I want y'all to understand that, and my daughter know. I mean, I understand. I try to. They make their own decision. That's life, right? I would. There are some things I would like to have different, but they're grown, right? But she's dating this guy, and he's a great dude. Every time I see him, he shakes my hand. Hey, how you doing, sir? Whatever. We talk. He's a great dude. Um, and I'm like that. That's cool. Like that. That's rare, right? It's rare. I didn't just with people today. I wasn't expecting that, right? And his mom and Carrie are Facebook friends, and every now and then she'll message or comment. And just she's like, man, just I love how Lexi's dad is helping him even become a better man. Because I try to teach him stuff that I know. Right? I don't know everything. I'm not the best person in the world, but if I feel like there's something he doesn't know that he should know, it's my daughter.
Is his dad in the picture?
Huh?
Is his dad in the picture?
His stepdad is in the picture, right? I don't know the situation with his real father, so we haven't had that conversation, right? And that's for him to decide to bring to me. I'm not going to ask again. I'm a man, right? Certain things I'm going to let you. I'm going to allow you to bring up to me. I'm here for you, 100%. There's some things I'm going to ask you.
There's
Right.
a conversation at work. We were talking about how men and women have different conversations. They get to different points in the conversation. And one of the guys at work went on a men's trip a couple months ago because he asked about my car to drive up. And he said he came home. He's like, "Oh, such and such is getting a divorce." And his wife was like, "Oh no, why?" He's like,
I don't know.
"I don't know." He said, "What do you mean you don't know?" He said he's getting a divorce, and then we moved on.
That's it. I mean, that's it.
It's not my place to fix it. And so we're wired differently. And so yeah, if he wants to talk about his dad, then he'll come to you, right?
Right.
And I don't have a relationship with my dad, and it's not something that I'm proud of, and I don't use it as a speaking point every opportunity I get. But when I have an opportunity to use it as a teachable moment somewhere, I'll bring it up. And I'll be honest, it's one of my biggest regrets in life, because I want nothing more. Like I'm low maintenance. I'm very low maintenance. I don't need much of anything from you. In fact, I'm 42 years old, so I'm good. It'd be nice to be able to have somebody I can call and bounce stuff off, but we don't have the same life experiences anyway. So
Right.
we may not have much to talk about. But I got 3 kids who would love to know who their grandparents or their grandfather is. And it's unfortunate for them that, that relationship doesn't work out. And I'm not going to sit on a podcast and turn this into
No. And
it's just, we have to do better.
absolutely.
We have to be involved in our children's life because it's more, and whether it be ego or pride or grudges or whatever the case may be. As people, Black people specifically, we got to learn how to put stuff on the back burner and start healthy dialogue, get to the root of issues, because we really just get to the point where this person pissed me off and I'm done
That's
with
it. Never talk to him again.
And so I'm
I'm
not
guilty of it. I'm not gonna sit there and pretend I'm not guilty of it, bro.
And so I'm finding the error in my ways. And so people who I feel like I have done that with, I've actually called them and said, "Hey, can we meet up?" And because I've cut you off, but I want you to understand why that happened. And if there's an opportunity to rectify that relationship, I'm open to it. Or if they decide that that's not something they're interested in, then I live with that too. Because I had a buddy.
I did my part.
Right. I had a buddy who called me 3 years ago. It was during COVID, and he was like, "Hey man, uh, I'm joining the motorcycle gang, so we can't be friends because if they find out that I'm friends with you and you the police, they might kill me." And I'm like, that's
Bro, you sure you want to join that?
that's crazy.
Right.
But I mean, you do you? Like what? Okay. And then so I called his brother and was like, "What? I just got this. He just got this message." He's like, "I don't know, man, dude. Dude tripping, whatever." All right, cool. All right, whatever.
That's
We've
kinda
been
weird.
we've been boys for 30 years, and so I'm like, all right. So a month ago, a little more, I see he's liked a couple things on my Facebook.
Started the slow comeback.
And I got a friend request,
Right.
and I ignored them all. And then I get a text message. "What's up, bro? I'm really proud of you. I love you. Yada yada." I'm like, "Man, I ain't heard from you in 3 years, when you told me that we couldn't be friends no more, you threw away our relationship 30 years to be in the back game. Yeah, you're right, man. I'm not gonna make any excuse. I appreciate you taking the accountability in that. However, you showed me that 30 years means nothing to you.
Right.
So I am not in a position to allow you back in my space, because there's nothing to say that in another three
You
you
like,
won't do
hey,
the same thing
hey,
again.
that gang got a spot open.
Right. So I mean, and those are the hard conversations we have to have. I
But
just
you know what? It's okay that, I mean, he reached out,
right.
right? And we have to be able to say, from accountability standpoint, like, okay, you did what's right. I find myself from time to time reaching out to people like, listen, okay, I cut you off. Right? Typically, if I cut somebody off, I just cut you off. Who I need to love me have my last name, and I gave it to him, right? But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I listen. Hey, here's the situation. I want to apologize. I don't want to change where we at, right? But I just needed you to know this is why it happened. In case you're wondering, because in hindsight, I was probably dirty for just disappearing. And that's okay, right? And I don't do that to rekindle or ignite friendships. It's like as I grow as a person, I feel like I owe you an explanation because typically if I cut you off, it's a I haven't and I'm cut off many people. Probably four people of my five people in my life because I don't tend to fool with people that I need to cut off. So over the course of 47 years, you know what I'm saying? I've cut off five people, probably three in the last 3 years. Just COVID changed some things. I looked at everything different. Like, man, life is. I need to focus on the things that are going to benefit and increase my my peace. Right? If I got to argue with you all the time about something that's not good, I still love you. I love you from a distance. Right? You know. But so I understand, but I don't know. Friendship is important. Um, it's a great, it's an important relationship to have. You got to have friends, right? You got to have people you can reach out to, and I'll reach out to you. I won't sit here and lie. If I have a problem, man, I'll reach out, man. Listen, Swanee, you're very religious. I'm not. I don't hide it from you, but I don't knock you. But hey, man, say a prayer for me, bro. Right? I try to make sure my relationships are. I respect everybody's situation, right? It doesn't matter if we live different, right? Because I don't want to be around everybody who does exactly what I do. I would feel like I'm getting cloned, right? I don't do that. But I mean, you gotta have friends who are of different walks of life. But then you also have to be reasonable about who you choose. That walk of life gotta not be a negative impact to mine,
Right.
right? Because again, my life when I had my kids and I made that woman my wife, my life became there. Everything I do, or the majority of the things I do, is centered around making sure their life is okay, better, improved, safe, whatever my roles and responsibilities are. We're gonna wrap this up, but I want to say one thing and I'm gonna cuss. Damn, you getting old, bro. 42? I'm just saying.
Didn't you just say you?
I am. I am,
But
but
math ain't math, and you calling me old.
I didn't say I wasn't old. I know I'm old. When I get up, it's gonna hurt. And I ain't do nothing but sit down, right? But no, man. I just I wanted us to get in here one time. We need to do this absolutely more than once.
Absolutely.
But I really wanted to just get in here and get an opportunity, and I think we need to really start to have these conversations as black men who have wives, who have children in their homes or raise their children, who are professional, who are people who are trying to, you know, better people in the world, right? And I think we're missing that. You have taken it further than I will. You guys have brought children in your home, and that's amazing. But we're on the right path. We're doing the right things, and I think it's good to hear people from time to time, especially on my podcast. I'm always talking about all the craziness in relationships, but I wanted to make sure I also talk about the positive and what can be,
Right.
right? Because everybody is capable. Some people need a little bit more work, right? But we just need to figure out a way to get people to see some positive. Right? We talked about how we grew up and wasn't a lot of positive role models. There was people today don't see a lot of successful marriages. So I want to make sure we kind of start down this path of doing this at least once a month, if not more frequently, just talking and from time to time we can bring other people into the fold, other married men or even single guys who want to have a discussion, want to ask questions, right? Like we'll have a real discussion about marriage, the hardships and the ups and the downs because they come,
Sure.
But
Well, yeah,
again,
man, and my wife and I,
appreciate. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, you talk about sexual relationships, man. My wife and I, we've toyed with the idea of writing a book and talking about the characteristics. So I looked at her, I said, "What?" I said, "What makes our marriage work? What do you think?" I said, "All right, tell you what, make a list. What you think makes our marriage work? I'll make a list." And there are things that I wrote that she didn't, and vice versa. And then there
Should
about
be
half of them were overlap. And so the concept is, um, we will we will co-write the ones that overlap, and we'll individually write the other ones, and then be able to put a book together. And it's a lot like the SAG program we're talking about, right? We just, we're not clinical,
this is a
professionals,
real from real people.
but this is organically, this is what has worked for us, especially as a teacher and a police officer, and by design, my profession, marriages, aren't successful,
Right. You added some.
but that's not the case. Like, for example, at my department where I work, like, most people are married or in serious relationships, and so it doesn't have to be that way, right? And so,
Mhm.
yes, it may be an industry norm, so to speak, but it's not. It's not because it's just destined to be that way. It's just because.
Right.
So, but yeah, as we get into it, we'd love to be able to talk about, like you said, we come in here and talk about the crazy, but we got to talk about the good too, and
Absolutely.
what makes things work and what makes relationships successful. I appreciate you opening the home to me
Absolutely.
in your
Absolutely.
podcast room.
Hey, thank y'all for checking us out. Look forward to the next one.